Chapter 1359, Heavenly Eye Clan. Chapter 1359, Heavenly Eye Clan, _. In the shoreless, endless current of asteroids, three aliens that looked pretty similar to the human clan were riding a flaming asteroid. They were all lanky with curly brown hair. They didn't look very different from human beings aside from a vertical slit that was between their eyebrows. It looked like a vertical, closed eye. They had an extra eye compared to humans, and that closed eye gave people an odd feeling. The three of them included an old man with a dejected appearance. His eyes were wrinkled like chicken skin. He wore an ash-gray robe. Accompanying the old man was a middle-aged man with twinkling eyes. He held a dry wooden staff, and his face was gingerly. The last member of this group was a woman who looked to be in her 30s. She was wearing brocade clothes. Her face was picturesque and her body was graceful. This group of three came from the same clan that had an extra eye. At this moment, the old man's vertical eye was twitching. The green veins on his forehead bulged and made his face sinister and fierce. The middle-aged man and the woman were cautiously looking at the old man. Shortly after, the old man shook hard. His vertical eye was still closed. 2 trickles of blood oozed out of the corners of his mouth. His blood was brown-gray. It wasn't red. "Senior! Senior!" The middle-aged man and the woman screamed in their alien language. They all grimaced. As they were screaming, they were about to use their power to help the old man recover. The eye on the old man's forehead shrank into a slit. His pair of eyes under that vertical eyes opened. With a pale face, he waved his hands to prevent the others from helping him. "Don't waste your energy. My soul got hurt, not my body or god power." He stood up and turned around to see the area behind him. The middle-aged man and the woman followed him and waited for his explanation. "The 2 aliens behind us don't have high realms. They're at just incipient god realm. However, the asteroid they're riding is really strange and unpredictable. Half of the soul energy tornado I'd released was swallowed. I couldn't feel the power of the asteroid yet. Perhaps their master is staying inside the asteroid. We should be careful." While he was cultivating, his third eye sent him some anxious feelings. He gathered his consciousness to sense and found Shiryan's and Audrey's life magnetic fields. Thus, he didn't hesitate to explore. He didn't expect that he wouldn't be able to retrieve half of the power he had released. Shortly after, his soul was damaged. He was startled indeed. "Senior, what should we do? Their asteroid is flying fast. Soon, they will catch up with us. Should we find a place to avoid them?" The woman's eyebrows twitched. She hurried to suggest. She was a gingerly person. When they encountered unknown dangers, she proactively tried to dodge them. The sea domain of nihility was so immense. If they didn't try to find it, it was going to be tough to meet up with the other creatures. Nevertheless, the creatures that could operate in the sea domain of nihility were very bold. In this group of 3, the woman had the lowest realm at 3rd sky of incipient god realm. This time, she didn't dare to act rashly as she was accompanying her 2 brothers. "If we leave the flaming crystal cloud boat, it will be very dangerous. We'll have to face exploding asteroids, sharp space eyes, and bombarding lightning bolts. In your realm, you won't be able to resist for a long time. We can't take the risk." The old man shook his head. The flaming asteroid underneath them was also strange. The burning asteroid emitted fire clouds, circling the rock and sending sparks everywhere. Countless lethal space sabers, strong gusts of wind, and even the icicles couldn't attack them. They could only glide through them. They were safe along the way. They didn't need to worry about the deadly dangers in the sea domain of nihility. Thus, they had time to cultivate and sense Shiryan's and Audrey's life energy commotions. "What should we do now?" The woman sounded reluctant. "The asteroid they are riding is strange. But it's just my guess. Maybe they don't have any master accompanying them. If so, we don't need to worry at all." The old man pondered and then decided, "Wait until they come close. We can ask them to know who they are." "Yeah, under the given circumstances that we don't know things clearly, we shouldn't provoke them. But if there are only the 2 of them, harumph." His eyes suddenly became dark and sinister. A murderous aura emitted from him that was as thick as if it was a real matter and could destroy people's mind. His realm and cultivation base weren't low. However, when the massive three-legged cauldron had collected his soul power, it also hurt his soul. He was going to need a lot of time to recover. Deep in his heart, he hated Shiryen and Audrey already. If he didn't need to concern himself with the mysterious cauldron, he would have stormed over and crushed Shiryen and Audrey to vent out his anger. "We'll follow you, Senior," nodded the middle-aged man. The cold light radiated from his eyes as he looked pensive. On the surface of the asteroid with the big cauldron inside, Shiryen squinted and looked at the torrential asteroid current. "We will encounter them soon. There are 3 of them. Their soul magnetic fields are full and surging. I'm afraid that their realms aren't low, but I can't clearly tell their realms. When we see them, we will know. They're the first creatures we ever met in this area." Audrey arched her brows, feeling excited and looking hopeful. "But the one who got his soul hurt won't be friendly to us. Are you sure we can deal with them?" "If we're cautious, we'll be all right," said Shiryen. "I hope we can get some useful information from them. I wonder how long we've been trapped here. Perhaps our world out there has changed earth-shakingly. You can ask, has we destroyed our world yet? How about Desolate? Has it awakened yet?" Audrey mumbled. She had no measure to tell time, but she guessed that they had been trapped here for around 10 years. During this time, she couldn't contact Imperial Dark Tribe, and she couldn't use the power of the Origin to see the commotions on God-blessed mainland. She was really worried about the members of Imperial Dark Tribe, her planet, and her mother's safety. "My co-soul is all right. It means that my Grace mainland is all right too. As your soul doesn't have any change, your ancestral planet is safe too. Don't worry too much," comforted Shiryen. Most of his friends and family members had been delivered to Grace mainland. As long as Grace mainland was okay, he didn't need to worry a lot. The fierce war between the God Clan and the Bloodthirsty Force had swept through many star areas. However, he didn't really care about them. When he delivered Xia Xine Yen back to Grace mainland, he had discreetly advised her to call all the ones who had a good relationship with him to return to Grace mainland. After he had fused with the Genesis fruit, Grace mainland changed marvelously. It had a layer of immense energy hover above the surface of the planet. It protected Grace mainland every minute. He believed that unless Hui used its real power, but its clones couldn't destroy Grace mainland. No matter how strangely the world changed, as long as Grace mainland and his friends were safe, his beloved ones were safe and sound, he could ease his mind. Audrey calmed down as he had comforted her. She sighed, "I hope so." The asteroid underneath them continued to accelerate. Suddenly, a dazzling flaming rock appeared in their vision. That flaming asteroid was so brilliant that it was eye-catching among countless ash-gray, brown, or black asteroids. So many flaming clouds covered the beautiful, slender, boat-like asteroid. The 3 aliens were standing on the back of the rock and looking at Shiryen and Audrey with bright eyes. "Oh hey, they have another eye between their eyebrows," screamed Audrey in fear. Shiryen was surprised. Looking at the 3 aliens, he lowered his voice. "The old man and that middle-aged man are at first sky of Immortal realm. That woman is at third sky of incipient God realm. That old man is really formidable. He's about to enter second sky of Immortal realm. He's just 1 step away." Shiryen had contacted Caesar, Ling Xiang, Lorraine, Xianhe, Frederick, De Carlos, and he had also witnessed how intimidating the God Lord and Ming were. With his sharp senses, he could know the realms of the others exactly through the level of the blood qi, the tenacious body, and the life magnetic field. He could see even the smallest change of the soul clearly. As Audrey listened to Shiryen, she felt cold, so she proactively stayed close to him. Audrey had only first sky of incipient God realm. At this moment, her realm made her the bottom of the food chain in the sea domain of nihility. She was vulnerable here. The vertical slits in the labella of the 3 aliens riding on the flaming crystal cloud boat twitched. They gazed at Shiryen. Their ears quivered as if they were trying to identify his language and identity. After a while, the old man suddenly smiled warmly at him. He pitched his voice and used Shiryen and Audrey's language. We're the members of the Heavenly Eye clan. We're glad that we can meet up here. I would like to ask if your precursors or your seniors are here with you. Do we have the honor to meet them? Audrey was bewildered. You know our language? The old man chuckled and explained in a friendly manner, well, of course. As we travel through the sea domain of nihility, we have to prepare well. We use a kind of soul memory seal to learn a couple hundred languages in many different star areas. Your language is rare but not really difficult. Don't be amazed. If you want, you just need to imprint the soul memory seal in your head, and you can speak many languages of different star areas. His friendly attitude made him a modest precursor guiding the juniors step by step. He didn't look dark and sinister as he used to. Shiryen wore a cold and faint face, but he was actually very cautious. He thought that this old man was very hypocritical. He knew that this old man was an evil character that he needed to carefully deal with. If this man came with rage, Shiryen could accept it. This fogey had been hurt by the massive three-legged cauldron anyway. However, at this moment, he looked so friendly as if nothing had happened. He made Shiryen uneasy immediately. Shiryen knew that he was a sort of tough and malicious person. He observed carefully and found that the other three were gazing at the asteroid that he and Audrey were riding. He understood it immediately. He knew why the old man had to act gingerly. The others weren't so sure about their competences. Chapter 1360. 3 Kinds of Living Beings. Chapter 1360. 3 Kinds of Living Beings. Updated by Novelful. The 3 members of the Heavenly Eye clan were looking at the asteroid Shiryen and Audrey were riding with bright eyes. Also, the old man, their leader, had asked to greet their precursors inside the asteroid. Shiryen sneered inwardly. He understood that the others were nice and friendly to them, but not because they were polite and well-educated. It was because they couldn't guess how strong Shiryen and Audrey were. Throwing a glance to the asteroid underneath, Shiryen wore a respectful face, bowed slightly, and then lifted his head. He spoke arrogantly, I'm sorry. Our master is cultivating inside. He can't come out to greet you. Please understand. No worries, no worries. The old man's eyes sparkled as he studied Shiryen. Seeing Shiryen act arrogantly, he thought that Shiryen wasn't scared because he had a strong master. The old man was startled, so he became even more cautious. His smile became more tender as he said modestly, Allow me to introduce myself, I'm Evelyn's. They are my brother and sister, Adams and Masha. We're going to the territory of the Dragon Lizard clan. I wonder if we're heading to the same place. While he was introducing, the middle-aged man named Adams and his sister Masha smiled and nodded to greet Shiryen and Audrey. They were sneaking looks at the asteroid underneath Shiryen and Audrey as they were filled with fear. Remembering what Evelyn's had told them, they didn't dare to provoke Shiryen and Audrey since they were really afraid of the rage of Shiryen and Audrey's master who was cultivating inside the asteroid. The rapid steroid current rumbled all the time. While they were talking, Shiryen and Audrey's asteroid was moving faster, so they were approaching Evelyn's flaming crystal cloud boat. With this torrent, Shiryen and Audrey were going to pass the boat and leave Evelyn's and his group behind. While Shiryen was talking, Audrey kept a cold face. She just listened and didn't utter a word. She was clever enough to see what the 3 experts of the Heavenly Eye clan worried about. Thus, she acted even more arrogant and proud. It looked like she didn't even put them in her eye. The more arrogant and cold Audrey got, the more cautious Evelyn's became. He thought that the girl and Shiryen had a strong foundation to depend. Thus, he pondered if they should proactively make way for them. Evelyn's didn't even dare to tell the others that his soul got hurt because he was afraid of the disaster he could face later. Dragon Lizard Clan? As Evelyn's was about to retreat and get further away from these two, Shiryen suddenly smiled. To be honest, our precursors are cultivating inside and he has ordered us to drive. But Shiryen looked embarrassed and said, This is the first time we've ever come here. We made a wrong turn, so we're lost now. Our precursors didn't know this yet. We're really upset. We don't know where we are now. Is the Dragon Lizard clan you've mentioned near here? Audrey appraised Shiryen for his witty reaction. She cooperated by pulling a sad face. The cold visage disappeared. She sighed as if she was afraid that her precursors would punish them. The three members of the Heavenly Eye clan exchanged looks and smiled. Masha, the only woman in that group of three, beamed at the others. Yes, this area is the Dragon Lizard clan's territory. Precursor Dragon Lizard, the second generation of the Dragon Lizard clan, is having a meal. The asteroid current over there is his food. While he's eating, he will take in the surrounding asteroids to increase his power. After that, Dragon Lizard will stay awake for a course of time. The members of the third generation of the Dragon Lizard clan will have a festival to celebrate the Dragon Lizard waking up. They will sell a lot of precious treasures. We're going there to see if we can find the cultivating materials we need. Listening to Masha, Shiryen, and Audrey were touched. They could never imagine that the second generation of the Dragon Lizard clan would consider the outer space rocks his food. What is that man? Is he an absolute beginning creature? Is that Dragon Lizard a creature from the absolute beginning era? Asked Audrey, her voice strange. Evelyn's looked at this strangely. He rubbed his chin then asked, "You guys are from Desolate Territory." Desolate Territory? Audrey was surprised. She felt as she was lost in the mist. She couldn't grasp Evelyn's idea. Evelyn's was more surprise. Your precursors didn't tell you anything about this place? You have no basic knowledge about the sea domain of nihility at all? Audrey didn't change her countenance. She still wore the cold face as she snorted. As soon as we got here, those fogies got inside the asteroid and cultivated. They said that when we got to the place, they would explain to us. They had only shown us the direction to go. Such a bunch of irresponsible old men. She stomped and cracked the rock surface. She looked so outraged. The three members of the Heavenly Eye clan changed their countenances. They were more fearful of the fogies Audrey had mentioned. It meant that there wasn't only one expert hiding inside the asteroid. Also, since Audrey didn't sound respectful when she talked about them, Audrey must be their favorite student. Oh, I see. Evelyn's was astounded. Seeing them approaching, he had an idea. He clasped his hand and said, "Oh, if you don't mind, I can explain something to you. It could save your precursors from this labor too." Audrey's heart beat frantically. Of course, she wanted it a lot. Still, while wearing a cold and faint visage, she nodded and said casually, "Then I have to thank you." Don't be too polite, Evelyn smiled and then began explaining. Normally, there are three kinds of creatures living around the sea domain of nihility. The first kind is the ones like the Dragon Lizard clan whose first-generation ancestor was the absolute beginning creature called Lizard. The real absolute beginning creatures have a single-worded name, which is the language of the absolute beginning era. Lizard's second generation has a two-word name, which is the Dragon Lizard. After the Dragon Lizard, it's the Dragon Lizard clan. They are the later generations of Lizard, the absolute beginning creature. This is the first kind of creature in the world. The second kind is the one like us, the members of the Heavenly Eye clan. Our ancestors weren't the absolute beginning creatures. They were high-level living beings created after the absolute beginning era. Of course, it's possible that our blood has the vestiges of absolute beginning creatures, more or less. But it's not really important. We're the new living beings of the new era. About the third kind, Evelyn's paused for a while and grinned oddly. It's you guys. You're the living beings that the absolute beginning creatures have created. They use the power of the absolute beginning creatures with the understanding of life to trigger the earth and heaven, and even destiny to create new lives. Because you were created by the absolute beginning creature, your soul is also born in the territory of that creature. You will be bound and limited to that creature. Unless you destroy your creator or tame it, your soul will always have an enslaving seal. Your creator can control you. So, among the three kinds of creatures, we are the ones that are discriminated as the weakest? Audrey said through her gritted teeth. No. Evelyn shook his head and continued explaining, your kind can still cultivate to an extremely profound level. You can evolve endlessly. There are some of you who can kill the creator or replace it. Of course, before you can do that, you are bound, but only your creator can bind you. No one else can have this ability anyway. Pausing for a while, he added, actually, when the three kinds of creatures cultivate to a profound level, they aren't too different from each other in nature. There are so many peerless warriors among of your kind. They aren't weaker than the other creatures of the other two kinds. If you can kill your creator, you can replace it and become more intimidating. Listening to Evelyn's, Shiryen and Audrey exchanged looks and appeared pensive. After they met the members of the Heavenly Eye clan, they knew more about the settings of this immense universe. Staying inside Desolite's territory, they were like the frogs under the coconut shell. They had lived in a dry well without knowing how high the sky really was. But now, they finally knew a bit more about its mysteries. How did you know we came from the Desolate territory? Is there anything to differentiate or divide the areas? Asked Shiryen. Evelyn's wasn't surprised because of their ignorance anymore. Your language exists in my memory soul seal. It's the language in the Desolate territory, the territory of Desolate, an absolute beginning creature. Previously, there were some creatures from your area who came to the sea domain. Thus, your language was recorded and spread out. Pausing for a while, he continued, there are so many territories similar to Desolate territory outside the sea domain of nihility. Also, there are real independent territories that were created at the beginning of the universe. The sea domain of nihility has many entrances connected to outside territories. I've told you about the 3 kinds of creatures. Many of them live outside the sea domain of nihility, but some of them still live in the sea domain of nihility. For example, the dragon lizard clan lives right in the sea domain of nihility. So, the sea domain of nihility is the center of those territories? The territories out there are independent worlds surrounding the sea domain of nihility. Audrey was surprised. Evelyn's nodded. Yep, exactly. Your Desolate territory is the territory that Desolate the absolute beginning creature had created. It isn't different from the real territories. Even if Desolate vanishes, the territory will remain. Anyway, the territory of our Heavenly Eye clan wasn't created by an absolute beginning creature. It's the universe that has naturally developed for billions of years. Most of the territories out there formed naturally. The territories created by the absolute beginning creatures are very rare, and they are much safer. In fact, you guys are very lucky that you can reach such a realm. You guys are living and growing in a greenhouse. I know that many people living in our territory would envy you guys. Envy us? Audrey looked awkward. Of course, they envy you, Masha intervened, her eyes filled with sadness. Our family lives on a star in our territory. When I was born, there were hundreds of kids like me. But now, not even after 1,000 years, 2/3 of them are gone. Most of them were killed by natural dangers while cultivating outside. Like this sea domain with so many death traps? Shiryen was fearful. No, not this much. If they lived here, they would have all been killed. We wouldn't even have had 1/3 left. Although our area isn't as dangerous as this area, it isn't safe at all. The deadly storms and tornadoes could destroy even the souls. If we want to cultivate, we must take risks. Death happens regularly, said Masha. The areas outside the sea domain of nihility are mostly like our Heavenly Eye clan's territory. Dangers lie everywhere. After experiencing so many challenges out there, when we reach a specific realm, we are qualified to enter and travel around the sea domain of nihility, said Adams, the one who had kept silent all the time. Shiryen and Audrey silently listened to them. Until now, they had finally gotten clear information about the sea domain of nihility. They finally knew how mysterious and deadly dangerous it was. Also, there were so many similar territories outside the sea domain of nihility. This place was the center of so many territories, the most mysterious and attractive place to high realm warriors and high-level creatures. Chapter 1361, The First Battle in the Sea Domain. Chapter 1361, The First Battle in the Sea Domain. Updated by Novelful. Calm Evelyn's was like the nice and friendly grandfather next door as he told them the mysteries of the sea domain of nihility. With the information he had provided, Shiryen and Audrey finally had a clear understanding of the place. Now, they knew how vast the real Sea of Stars was. In fact, there were countless territories similar to their territory. Now, they knew that not only Desolate, Devourer, and we were creatures from the absolute beginning era in this world. Also, the incipient god realm was actually vulnerable in the sea domain of nihility. Desolate territory is the world that Desolate had created. It's really magical. Have your precursors ever met Desolate and gotten its core inheritance? Evelyn suddenly asked while the vertical slit on his forehead twitched and sent a miraculous wisp of soul, which then fell into Audrey's eye. Audrey suddenly became bewildered. Her eyes looked puzzled. Her consciousness was seized as she had only first sky of incipient god realm. Evelyn's had ambushed her quickly. She said perplexedly, "No precursors are with us. We deceived you." Hearing her, Shiryan's temples convulsed as he cried inwardly. His face became ultimately stern. He didn't think more and pulled Audrey to his side, sending a flow of cold energy through his hand into her body. Shuddering, Audrey woke up. Her beautiful face turned frosty, her eyes coldly piercing. Shiryan cursed himself for being careless under his breath. He had underestimated the cunning feature of the others. Evelyn's had shown his smiling face all the time and explained to them everything they had asked. His nice and friendly attitude had reduced Shiryan's and Audrey's vigilance. Shiryan thought that they were really afraid of his imaginary precursors, so they came to befriend them. He didn't expect that this old man would be so bold. He had spent a lot of efforts to tell Shiryan and Audrey some information just to make them relax their guard. Then, he attacked Audrey, the one with the lower realm. Audrey was under his sole attack and telling him the truth. Such a treacherous old man. Audrey looked cold as the departed souls moved around her body. Eliminating the wisp of attacking soul consciousness in her brain, she hissed. Evelyn's, Adam's, and Masha fell into silence after they had heard the truth from Audrey. Masha just frowned, her face odd. She sighed as if she was sympathetic for what the other two were about to experience. Evelyn's and Adam's, her two seniors, were cold and sinister. The warm smile on their faces vanished. They immediately showed their real colors. Wahaha. Evelyn's laughed evilly. I didn't expect that you two would be such ignorant kids. The thing inside this asteroid should be the treasures of your school, right? It hurts my soul and it made me skeptical. I have to waste a lot of time to identify the truth. Do you know how much of my time you have wasted? While talking, Evelyn's moved like a cold light and zoomed over from the flaming crystal cloud boat. In just a blink, he landed on Shiryan and Audrey's asteroid. He turned around and said to Adams and Masha, I can handle them easily since they are only 2 juniors at incipient god realm. They can't escape me. You guys don't need to waste your god power. Adams nodded and said darkly, then, we have to bother you, senior. Senior, shouldn't we not act so harshly like that? Frowned Masha. There's no rule worth mentioning in the sea domain of nihility. It's their bad fate that they've encountered us. Moreover, the asteroid they're riding should have something really good inside. Adams snorted and told her off. It's the first time you came here. You don't know how malicious it is in this area. If we encountered second sky of Immortal realm here, we wouldn't have a natural death. Don't be compassionate. Otherwise, you'll have to endure a big loss in the future. Masha sighed weakly. She didn't say more because she knew it was no use. Hey, you old man. You do have a dark and profound scheme. You've invested a lot of efforts to make us understand the marvels of the sea domain of nihility. I have just one more question. Did you guys tell us the truth about this area? Shiryan frowned and looked at Evelyn slowly approaching. He discreetly urged his power. Nothing we've told you guys is false. Of course, to make you show your weakness, I couldn't make any mistake. You guys don't have enough experience. Don't blame me for being sinister. At this moment, Evelyn's wore a cold and harsh face. He didn't keep a bit of the friendly countenance. He directly walked toward Shiryan. I will kill you first. Then, I will use your sister's soul to investigate the miraculous powers inside this asteroid. You want to kill us because your soul got hurt. Don't you think you're too savage? Shiryan gave him a forced smile. My soul has been damaged badly. It has affected my breakthrough. You guys must pay with your lives, hissed Evelyn's. His curly brown hair emitted a gray halo. He threw both of his hands into the sky. The gold light suddenly burst out of his palms when he released the keen god power. Shortly after, countless fine gold fragments swarmed over like the torrent of billions of hard needles. They were aimed at Shiryen and Audrey. Each of the gold fragments had a wisp of Evelyn's soul consciousness. It seemed like he had fused his soul and his god power perfectly, giving the fragments consciousness so that they could lock Shiryen and Audrey precisely. The gold shower made a downpour. Audrey's departed souls shrieked in her soul altar. Her body emitted a cold aura, but her eyes looked frightened. She had just first sky of incipient god realm cultivation base, while Evelyn's was at first sky of immortal realm. His metal power Upanishad was profound and magical. His compatibility of god power and soul had surpassed most of the people with the metal power Upanishad in desolate territory. He had an absolute understanding of power and soul. Bloody shield. Shiryen wore a cold face. He rose one hand to touch the void. A sea of blood emerged and turned into a massive shield as large as the sky. The blood cloud mark on the shield moved like a blooming red flower. It had stopped all the gold fragments. Bang, bang, bang. The gold fragments shelled on the bloody shield. Gold electric beams sparked as the metal power inside the fragment hit the shield hard. Blood burned in his body. A brutal aura shot out of Shiryan's head like a blood column connecting his body with the bloody shield. Boom! The bloody shield emitted blood halos. A deadly aura that could kill all the creatures expanded like seawater. Agar. Evelyn's eyes brightened. He screamed in astonishment. He was shocked because Shiryen could stop his supernatural power. Adams and Masha behind him were also surprised. Evidently, they hadn't expected that Shiryen at third sky of incipient god realm could endure his senior's attack. They knew that Evelyn's hadn't used all of his power, but if Shiryen could endure such an attack under the given circumstance of the big gap between their realms, this young man wasn't an ordinary warrior. Kid, your god power is really abundant. No wonder you dare to travel around the sea domain of nihility, even though you know nothing about it. But it's too bad for you since the first warrior you met here is me. Evelyn's laughed contentedly. So many gold fragments emerged on Evelyn's palms like gold fireflies floating in the void. Those fragments condensed and congregated quickly. It became a gold saw that connected directly to his left arm. His arm shivered and the gold saw shot out a gold rainbow, using the sharpness of the metal power that could tear everything and fiercely slash the bloody shield. Bang! Millions of gold fragments sparked on the surface of the bloody shield. A den appeared on the shield and the halo of many blood clouds dimmed out. Crack! 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 Shiryan's body was cracking as if he was made of jade. His iron-like, tenacious body was torn by the terrifying shockwaves, his veins bulging under his skin. However, there was no bleeding. He shook his shoulder. A surging vitality arose in his body. The cracks and cuts on his skin were mended quickly. His body glowed in a blood halo. I know you're at the immortal realm. But since I came to this world, the one thing I'm good at is to breaking the arrogance and confidence of higher realm warriors, grinned Shiryen. His power Upanishad switched. The commotion of the deep, vast sea of stars burst out from his body. Meteor dance. The starlight shot out of his 10 fingers like chains that coiled 10 surrounding asteroids. Instantly, those 10 asteroids had become his extended limbs and his weapons. 10 massive asteroids got out of the rapid asteroid current as the starlight chains pulled them. They grumblingly attacked Evelyn's. Their aura was much fiercer than billions of Evelyn's gold fragments. Evelyn's face changed. Adams and Masha exchanged looks, their faces stern. They had a new cognition of Shiryan's boldness. Now, they felt regretful because Evelyn's was so hasty. He shouldn't have made it so serious that they couldn't handle it. Audrey had good sense. She quietly retreated to Shiryan's back and released her departed souls, her special power Upanishad. She used the souls to lock Evelyn's commotion to prevent him from using the soul power to attack Shiryan's consciousness. Typically, the high real warriors would have their soul consciousness be one level higher than the low realm warriors. Sometimes, they could use their soul consciousness to smash the spirit and cognition of the lower realm warriors, making them sheep waiting to be slaughtered. When Audrey got ambushed, Shiryen had saved her. Otherwise, she would still be puzzled now. Thus, she was afraid that Shuryen would be ambushed in the same way. She carefully used Imperial Dark Tribe's unique soul power Upanishad, which used so many departed souls as a defense to prevent Evelyn's from using his soul to intrude them. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The 10 massive asteroids were like 10 giant balls bombarding Evelyn's. He didn't dare to forcefully stand. He turned into a cluster of gold and drifted away immediately. The gold saw was still connected to his limb. Under his control, it slashed on the bloody shield one more time. Not that easy, Shuryen sneered. The fingers on his left hand flickered. An asteroid hissed while it moved to parry the gold saw. Countless gold light beams sparked. The big asteroid exploded and the chipped rock showered everywhere. Evelyn's was shaken. The gold cloud he had transformed into dispersed. He reappeared limping, his face red. A trickle of blood dripped from his mouth. Apparently, he got hit one more time. This time, his god body was wounded. Chapter 1362, Lord of Stars. Chapter 1362, Lord of Stars, _ Shuryen had a magical, cheery feeling. After he had refined his body with the mysteries from Huey's brain, his soul altar, body, and even his blood was sublimated. He hadn't really fought against anyone. While facing Evelyn's today, he felt relaxed and calm as his god power, blood, and soul had reached a marvelously harmonious level that he had never dared to dream of. The branches of his god power ancient tree and his veins were connected. As soon as his mind flickered, the abundant star energy was triggered, overflowing unceasingly. Instantly, his body got filled with bursting energy without pausing or losing efficiency along the way. With just a beam of god power, he could maximize his power to the max. It had never happened like this before. Previously, when the god power in his lower abdomen was triggered, it would move through his veins before he could use it. During this process, there would be some delay and energy would be wasted along the way. He wouldn't be able to use all of the desired energy. Shuryen focused on exploring his soul altar. His sea of consciousness, which was the lowest level, was now an immensely vast ocean. Innumerable beams of soul consciousness weren't misty or smoky anymore. Now, they were materialized into the liquid form of energy like real water. It was a dark sea with murmuring seawater where a core power that could nurture the soul was filled. The aura of the sea was even more formidable than the god power ancient tree. The sea of consciousness had become a real sea with immense, dark seawater that realized the dark steam. The thick, dark steam arose and nurtured the tier of power Upanishads, heaven flames, incipient extent, the host's soul and the co-soul. It was like an eternal source of energy supplied to his soul altar. His eyes shot out of a divine light. Concentrating harder, he found that the energies in his sea of consciousness and the god power ancient tree were completely different. It was like two sides of a coin. Shuryen was astounded, though. The god power ancient tree was dazzling like a massive diamond. The sea of consciousness was as dark as ink. It didn't reflect any light, but it murmured constantly. Once a wisp of soul consciousness flew out of the sea, it immediately turned transparent with the intimidating power. He suddenly had a feeling that his sea of consciousness was healing his soul altar and transforming it. Also, he had barely understood anything about the new energy, the dark energy in his sea of consciousness. At this moment, he had made up his mind. While he was in the sea domain, he had to decode this mysterious and yet wonderful energy. He had to get a good grasp of it. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Although his mind changed constantly, the asteroids connecting to his 10 fingers had never paused. The starlight chains connected the asteroid and continued to bombard Evelyn's crazily. Evelyn's gathered the energy of his metal power Upanishad. The gold saws flew out of his body and moved like rainbows attacking Shuryen. The massive asteroids gradually exploded with sparks and rocks. They had even rumbled an asteroid current. Whenever an asteroid exploded, Evelyn's was shaken hard. He felt the bones in his entire body get hammered. His face reddened. Until the last asteroid exploded, Evelyn's red face paled. His eyes became dark and sinister. The currents of energy in his body moved chaotically. Around 10 gold saws hovered above his head. The teeth of the saws were thick like open mouths of monsters. His resentful eyes gazed at Shi Yan as he roared like a wild beast. The lid of his third eye shivered. A strong energy fluctuation came as if it was about to open. From the bottom of his heart, Shi Yan had an extremely dangerous feeling. With a grave face, he discreetly urged his power. The pure star energy moved through his veins like a rapid stream. Instantly, his blood chi became full and his life magnetic field was reaching another realm. Then, he transformed into his fighting form as if he was facing his archenemy. The bone wings jutted out of his back. Spikes grew on his shoulders, elbows, and knees. A natural keratin layer of armor fitted his lean body. His fingernails were now cold, sharp swords. An evil, brutal aura emitted from his new fighting form. It was like a hissing volcano in hell that was about to release something deadly scorching. Evelyn's was so frightened. His third eye on the forehead convulsed as if it was about to open. "Senior!" Adam screamed in fear. Just like a wild tornado, he appeared and steadied by Evelyn's. He said heavily, "It's just a trivial provocation. Would you risk your life with him?" Although this little buddy has third sky of incipient god realm, his real competencies aren't weak. "Senior, just let it go." While he was talking to Evelyn's, he used the language of desolate territory so that Shi Yan and Audrey could understand. However, while talking loudly, he had sent a discreet soul message to Evelyn's. "This kid's blood isn't ordinary. He can activate the power of his blood to transform. I'm afraid that he's not easy to deal with. Senior, your soul and body are wounded. It's not easy to win single-handedly. Let's pretend to not get a hold to it. You and I will join hands and find the right opportunity to hit him and kill him instantly." Adams was using his soul to talk to Evelyn's. As Evelyn's was listening to Adam's secret message, his third eye didn't open. He looked as if he was considering Adam's suggestion. Not far from them, Masha sighed weakly. She knew that Adam's was even more extreme than Evelyn's, and that man was filled with evil thoughts. When she saw that Adams didn't use the language of the Heavenly Eye clan to tell Evelyn's to retreat, she figured out their plan immediately. She understood that Adams now had another plan. He wanted to use his dark mind to handle this. In fact, it was also Adam's plan when Evelyn's had pretended to be friendly to talk to the others and then suddenly used his soul to ambush them to find the truth out of them. In this group of three, Adams was the most cunning one. He was their insidious strategist. Masha understood their ideas. She covered her mouth, her face disbelieving. She thought that with Adams talking and Evelyn's nodding, begrudgingly, she believed that Shi Yan would stop fighting. Anyway, Adams was at the Immortal realm and she herself was at third sky of incipient god realm. If they had good sense, they would know that they shouldn't attack furthermore. However, right at this moment, when Evelyn's nodded begrudgingly and retreated his gold saws, that wild, young man grinned fiendishly and dashed forward. Masha discolored in fear. Audrey didn't know the reason. Her beautiful eyes looked puzzled. She didn't know why Shi Yan still wanted to fight when her side apparently ceased to fight. "Who do you think you are? You think you can kill, and when you can't do that, you want to retreat? It's not that easy." 10 starlight beams gathered into one. Shi Yan abruptly disappeared into the starlight. The brilliant starlight band drifted toward Evelyn's and Adams like a magnificent ribbon. The starlight bands moved beautifully. A strong life energy surged like the giant wave. After that fierce life energy, a cold, death intent emerged and swept around. At the same time, dozens of giant space blades that were floating freely near them were attracted by the starlight. Moving with a long tail, they slashed toward the others forcefully. Inside the turbulent asteroid current, the space blades moving through the gaps between the asteroids were the most furious and dangerous things. Masha had seen the space blades slashing the giant floating rocks into powder. She believed that Evelyn's and Adams would perish when the space blade lacerated them. "Kid, you're crazy." Adams changed his visage. Shi Yan attacked forcefully, ruining their plan before they could carry it out. At this moment, to show that he cooperated, Evelyn's had retrieved his metal power. When he saw the torrential starlight torrent coming with formidable space blades, his scalp felt numb. They didn't take Yan's characteristics into account, and he had underestimated Yan's intimidating and brutal ways. They were going to receive a big loss this time. Space drill. The sharp space sabers were hundreds of meters long. They came magnificently and were deadly. The sharp sabers glided through the void and sizzled. The asteroids along their way were smashed instantly. The space sabers pressed down like a keen drill from the sky. Adams and Evelyn's were shaken hard. They didn't have time to consider the situation. They immediately urged their power to the acme. They had to move swiftly like lightning bolts in between the asteroids. They didn't dare to stop for even a moment. Wahaha. All of you should pay a big price. Yan grinned fiendishly. The asteroids around Evelyn's and Adams seemed to be activated quickly. They deviated while shooting forward. Grumblingly, they barged into the two of them. While they weren't alerted, many asteroids had hit them hard. They coughed up blood and looked extremely helter-skelter. Those asteroids were like 1,000-meter-high mountains that were as heavy as the Immortal Island. As Yan's star energy had connected to them and was controlling them with his god power, they became his lethal weapons. In this vast sea of stars, Yan's star power Upanishad was an abnormal power. Innumerable asteroids in this place could become his weapons. Fighting against him here was just like seeking death. Even though Adams and Evelyn's had higher realms, Yan had the right timing and condition here. He could hurt them hard. Seniors. Masha screamed piercingly. The flaming crystal cloud boat she was riding changed its route. Fire clouds emitted from the flaming crystal. Their asteroid turned into a starlight band and shot toward Adams and Evelyn's. The two of them had blood all over their faces. At this moment, their souls were shaken hard. They had given up the thought of taking revenge. They immediately hopped on the flaming crystal. Adams urged, "Go. Leave this place immediately. It's so unfortunate. What kind of monster did we encounter?" Evelyn's put on a dark and harsh face, looking at Yan sinisterly. "Wait until my soul and god body recover. I will come to take your life. You've bullied us intolerably." "He's a harsh bully. Don't talk like that." "Oh, he's chasing after us. Gosh, he wants to hunt us down." Masha screamed, her face pale and cold. Inside the torrential asteroid flow, Yan was like a brilliant comet that flew toward them at breakneck speed. The asteroids in his way had proactively made way for him as if he was the lord of the galaxy who could control the stars and the asteroids. He was born as the Lord of Stars. Chapter 1363. A Bad Hand Destroys the Flower. Chapter 1363. A Bad Hand Destroys the Flower. Evelyn's and Adams looked back. Their faces changed as they were filled with terrible regrets. Yan zoomed over through the chaotic asteroid current. The rocks in his way automatically drifted aside to give him lots of room. The shining, sharp space sabers hovered by him and gave him an unrivaled aura. With his body as a shooting star, the asteroids making his way, and the sharp space sabers moving around him, the power that Yan performed this time was like a deep seal imprinted in Evelyn's and Adams. They had to hiss in pain. If they had known Yan was that bold, even if they had to die, they wouldn't have provoked them. Now, they had this slaughtering comet after them. What should they do? For the time being, Evelyn's and Adam were so regretful. Seeing Yan coming like a deadly rainbow, their scalps felt numb. They thought that they would perish this time. "You don't want to let us go, do you?" Masha stepped up. While her two seniors were hurt, she came to the back of the flaming crystal cloud boat to face Yan. Magically, when Evelyn's and Adam saw her walking out, they didn't look worried at all. Their eyes brightened. It seemed like they had great confidence in her. "What?" Yan squinted, his pores open. Instinctively, he smelt danger. He coldly looked at the heavenly eye woman and scanned her body. "If your seniors didn't want to kill us, I wouldn't be hunting them down. When your seniors attacked me, I didn't see you prevent them. What is it good for now?" A shining, thin space saber radiated a dazzling light, which had the death intent domain that could swallow all kinds of creatures. Just like a demon from hell, it snatched over the flaming crystal cloud boat. After reaching third sky of incipient god realm, he could combine the space, star, death, and life power Upanishads easily whenever his thoughts changed. It seemed like he could create a new supernatural ability easily. Different energies and techniques in his hands showcased as if they had consciousness. His attacks could become so profound and magical. The shining space saber had the power of the starlight and the death intent domain. It was truly the combination of space, star, and death. Ordinary people could never resist such an attack. Shuryen believed that even Adams and Evelyn's would find it hard to resist it. At this moment, Adams and Evelyn's were both injured. Their souls and bodies were hurt. They didn't dare to use their god power to face this attack forcefully. They could only dodge it. He wanted to force them to dodge, indeed. As long as they jumped out of this flaming asteroid, he would immediately control the sharp saber to smash this asteroid. He wanted to force the others to fight against him in the current of asteroids. He had soon recognized the magical power of the flaming crystal asteroid that they were riding. It could dodge the dangers in the turbulent current, and it could glide through the space sides and the explosions easily. It had the same effects as the asteroid with the three-legged jade cauldron as its core. As soon as the others got out of the asteroid's protection, Shuryen was confident that he could kill Adams and Evelyn's in this asteroid torrent. Because those space rocks were under his control, they listened to his star power Upanishad. Do you really think that we don't have the power to counterattack? Masha became cold. Her clothes fluttered without the wind. It looked like she had electric currents flashing through her curly brown hair. The terrifying roar suddenly arose from inside Masha's body. She touched her glabella and her third eye opened, illuminating the entire world. The beautiful purple light immediately shrouded the area in front of her. In that violet light, a beast with a dragon head and a lion's body that was as imposing as a grand mountain emerged. It roared at Shuryen angrily. Boom! The shockwaves came unceasingly and pounded the asteroids along the way into powder. Even the space sabers exploded. The energy surged through Masha's third eye and gushed toward the body of the beast that had the dragon head and the lion body. The strong beast became fiercer. In the faint violet light, it barged over and roared terrifyingly. Its sharp claws pulled and exploded everything in its way. It angrily roared and threw its mountain-like claw at Shuryen's head. The cold light that had an extremely keen power sparkled on the beast's claws. This strike could smash Shuryen's bones within a second and turn him into a pulp of flesh like those asteroids. The beast with the dragon head and a lion body was the holy mascot of Masha's family. She had to use her third eye to summon and use her own energy to activate it. The third eye of the Heavenly Eye clan had a special ability to summon the beast to help the master in fighting. Legends of the Heavenly Eye clan said that their third eye could connect to various kinds of animals and it could generate a unique power Upanishad. It was their core power, but once the third eye was activated, the side effects would hurt the user severely. However, the energy it could release was extremely formidable. The beast Masha had summoned with her third eye was the holy mascot of her family. When it got her blood chi and energy, it was so powerful that Adams and Evelyn's couldn't counter it. It was also because of the supernatural power of Masha's third eye that Adams and Evelyn's had brought her with them when she had only third sky of incipient god realm. However, Adams and Evelyn's understood that whenever she used the power of the third eye, no matter what happened, she would get poorly hurt. The energy she pumped to the beast couldn't recover quickly. Thus, when she opened her third eye, the two of them made up their mind. They had to kill Shuryen at any cost. Rumble! 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 The brutal beast had crushed all the asteroids in its way. Its roaring also pressed the sharp space sabers and exploded them. Its ferocious power was released and locked Shuryen in its tracks. It was storming toward him furiously. Masha paled, her plump body becoming thinner quickly. It seemed like even her flesh was being consumed. At the same time, the purple light projected from her third eye became more dazzling. The beast in that light had rocketed its power too. Watch out! The blood chi of that beast has almost reached Lady, the immemorial thunder dragon's level. Although it doesn't have a power Upanishad to use, it's not a joke. Audrey rode the fast asteroid. Her beautiful eyes rolled as she reminded Shuryen not to be careless. Yan's face became extremely stern. Seeing the beast barge in, his blood chi burst out like a formidable erupting volcano in hell. The bone wings behind his back flapped and released torrential blood waves that carried the crimson blood chi that could destroy everything. Wisps of energy in his sea of consciousness filled his body. His fearsome body flashed as if he was moving through darkness and light alternatively. When the dark energy seeped through, the space where he was staying exploded. Even the sea domain was shaking as if it was about to collapse. Inside that rapid asteroid current, dozens of massive rocks melted inaudibly. "Come here!" Yan screamed indignantly. He suddenly disappeared as if he could go invisible. Swish! A bleeding cut appeared right in the chest of the dragon-headed lion. The energy rippling through its body looked like wooden patterns. It howled, screeched, and stormed toward the void, using its claws and fangs to tear and pull while wagging its long tail. Boom! 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 Yan, in his invisible state, was hit by the claws. He felt like a massive battleship had just bumped into him. His body shook hard. The blood in his body boiled. He reappeared. The bone wings fluttered like a saw cutting off the tail of the beast. Unexpectedly, Yan's bone wings had broken the purple patterned tail of the beast. Crack! Crack! Yan's sharp fingernails thrust into the beast. It sounded like shattering diamonds when the beast's skeleton exploded. Tui! Masha vomited blood, her face as ashen as a sheet of white paper. The light projecting from her third eye dimmed. She looked ash-gray. Hesitating for a few seconds, she touched her chest. Her heart began to beat frantically 10 times faster than usual. The beast seemed to receive more boosts. It became super strong and more savage instantly. Yan was surprised. Evelyn's was bewildered. He was about to open his third eye. However, seeing Masha trigger the power in her heart, he discolored and screamed, "No!" Adams cried, his face ashen. "Don't!" They ignored Yan and dashed toward Masha. They both rose one hand to cover her third eye. As soon as the purple light was covered, the dragon-headed lion started dying. It faded and disappeared slowly. Masha's face didn't have color. Her soft body quivered. Her frantic heart suddenly became sluggish. She looked even more vulnerable than before she had triggered her energy. Her heart gradually ceased to beat. Her situation was extremely strange. "I want to kill him. I want to kill him." Evelyn's burst out crazy. His third eye twitched as if it was about to open. He also wanted to use his power Upanishad that would consume his vitality. "Saving our sister is much more important," shouted Adams. Evelyn's eyes were garnet. Hearing Adams calling, he reacted fast. Their third eyes slowly opened and released green and blue light respectively. The lights from their eyes were like a life magnetic field that covered Masha. The magical life energy from the light slowly entered Masha's third eye. Ashen Masha steadied her breathing as the lights shrouded her. Her weak heart gradually started beating faster. Then, Yan landed on their flaming crystal cloud boat. He looked interested, observing and walking toward them. Yan. Audrey was sitting on the asteroid. Because it was moving fast, she was close to Yan now. She looked at him from a distance and frowned. "We shouldn't be extreme. We're new here. We shouldn't offend many people. It would be very hard for us later." Yan chuckled and shook his head. "I have never been merciful to enemies. If I wasn't strong enough, you and I would have been killed this time. They wouldn't show mercy, you know." While talking, he walked toward Evelyn's, Adams, and Masha. Evelyn's and Adams were in the critical process of their healing procedure to save Masha. Although they knew that the young man didn't come with goodwill, they couldn't be distracted. Deep resentment appeared in their eyes, but they didn't dare to pause the healing process. If they stopped the treatment, Masha would die when her life magnetic field got drained. "Well, I didn't expect that you two seniors would have a deep affection for your sister. Love is really harmful to people. I didn't expect that you would give up fighting to maintain her life magnetic field. It's touching to me." Yan frowned. He urged his power, and the dark energy in his sea of consciousness created 2 strange marks. The blood cloud mark that naked eyes couldn't see flew out of his glabella and disappeared into Adams and Evelyn's hearts. That energy could trigger the destructive energy to crush their hearts instantly. Shuryen knew that besides the soul, the heart was the weakest point of the Heavenly Eye warriors. They were different from Shuryen. Even if his heart was broken, he could use his blood to create another one. When the marks entered Adam's and Evelyn's, it meant that Shuryen had controlled their lives now. He didn't feel shameful when he attacked the other two while they couldn't be distracted. Come over here. It's safe now. We can talk to them nicely, Shuryen waved at Audrey. Chapter 1364, Dragon Lizard Clan. Chapter 1364, Dragon Lizard Clan, _. On the flaming crystal cloud boat, Evelyn's and Adam's were projecting green and blue light that covered Masha's body. It was like the life original fluid that could nurture and refill her life magnetic field. Masha's slow heartbeat became steady. At that moment, Shuryen sent the blood cloud mark to Evelyn's and Adam's hearts. The other two could feel it clearly, but they didn't have the power to resist. They had to wait until Masha had recovered to plan their next step. Not far from them, Audrey felt relaxed when she saw Shuryen not kill the others immediately. She furrowed her brows and called him, "What should I do with this asteroid?" The asteroid she was riding had the mysterious three-legged cauldron as the core. The massive cauldron had so many symbols, which was the language of the absolute beginning era and carried endless mysteries. Audrey and Shuryen wanted to decode the language and the magical power of the cauldron, so they couldn't let the cauldron drift away from their sight. Hearing her, Shuryen was bewildered for a while. Then, he said, "Oh, it's simple." He then sent a surging starlight band to chain the flaming asteroid. The flaming crystal cloud boat was pulled and it hissed all the way toward Audrey. Adam's, Evelyn's, and Masha, the owners of the cloud boat, couldn't get distracted to do anything else. They could only stare at Shuryen using his god power to deviate them. Boom! The entire flaming crystal fell on Audrey's asteroid. It wasn't really big. After landing on the asteroid with the three-legged cauldron inside, the flaming asteroid took around a quarter of the area. The flaming asteroid stopped. Audrey's beautiful eyes brightened. She agilely hopped on it. Shortly after, she stood by Shuryen and used her cold and calm eyes to look at the other three. Evelyn's and Adam's were still releasing their energy to heal their sister Masha. Masha's aura slowly regained and her exhausted life magnetic field became sufficient. The Heavenly Eye clan is strange indeed. They could share the soul energy through the third eye. What a mysterious race. Audrey focused on observing them for a while. She felt interested and more curious as she was watching the other three. Her soul power Upanishad was really marvelous. It helped her be more sensitive to soul energy fluctuations. She found that Evelyn's and Adam's could use their third eye to send the energy of their host souls to Masha and increase her life magnetic field, and it give her vitality. It seemed to be a supernatural power that only the Heavenly Eye clan could perform using the third eye. Although they didn't know life power Upanishad, they still could use the third eye to create the same effect. It was really subtly magical. Perhaps it's the special innate power of their race, nodded Shuryen. Different races have different magical features. The God Clan, Imperial Dark Tribe, and Heavenly Monster Tribe have their unique features in their bodies and souls. This vast sea of stars had so many races. Of course, they didn't always have similar features in their souls, bodies, or powers Upanishads. Shuryen and Audrey casually talked to each other while quietly observing the other three. After a long while, Evelyn's and Adam's looked dormant, but Masha woke up. She opened her eyes, which were filled with resentment. She hissed, "What did you do to my two seniors?" To heal her, Evelyn's and Adam's, who were hurt, already had to spend more vital energy, which had pushed them into a vulnerable situation. They were even weaker than Masha now. Thus, Masha could wake up first while the other two still needed to steady their soul energy in the soul altar. It's really touching, Shuryen curled his lips. He looked like he was smiling, but he actually didn't smile. Your two brothers are evil and cunning. They don't talk about rules or morality. But they treat you honestly. Haha. To save your life, they didn't care about their safety to give you vital energy. They've touched me. They made observers like us feel touched. If they hadn't cared about Masha, Adams and Evelyn's wouldn't have had to bear Shiryan's blood mark. They would have had an opportunity to escape. Because of Marcia, they decided to stay and heal her regardless of their lives. I admit that my brothers were a little extreme. However, they hadn't really hurt you guys yet. We even introduced the basic knowledge of the universe to you. What else do you want? Masha took a deep breath, her eyes keen. Don't push us too much. Otherwise, I can pay with my broken cultivation to kill all of you. Shiryan. Audrey arched her brows and said, "Leave it to me." Shiryan shrugged. He said, "Good then. It's easier to let a woman talk to a woman. Your two seniors had risked their lives to save yours. I wonder if you care about theirs too?" Audrey asked, her cold face arrogant. "Now, your brothers' lives are in our hands. If we want, we can kill them instantly." Masha discolored and gritted her teeth. She shot a malicious look to Audrey. Audrey didn't change her complexion as she spoke faintly. "Actually, we won't hunt you down to the last one. We need your knowledge. As long as you cooperate by giving a thorough explanation as required by us, I'm sure you can survive well." She turned around and confirmed with Shiryan, "Right?" Shrugging, Shiryan said relaxedly, "You're right." Audrey was the princess of Imperial Dark Tribe, and she used to work with Shiryan when they were on Desolate. Before he had shown his power, Audrey was the leader of the group of the outstanding warriors from many star areas. Shiryan didn't doubt her wisdom and keen eyes. He knew she would try her best for them. If he wanted to kill them, he would have done so already. What he wanted was what Audrey was carrying out. They needed more information about the vast sea of stars. In the best case, they wanted to know the direction to return to Desolate territory. If they knew the mysteries of this place, they could make their plan and journey easily. Apparently, Audrey knew what they lacked the most at this moment. She acted at a normal pace, her face indifferent. "Killing you guys will bring nothing to us. We need your cooperation." Listening to her, Masha's resentment subsided. She pondered for a while and then said, "We should wait until my seniors woke up." "Not a problem. In this area, time is something we have a lot of," said Audrey calmly. After a while, Evelyn's opened his eyes, his face dark. He looked at Shiryan indignantly and gritted his teeth like a caged beast. His mood wasn't stable. Shiryan grinned and his mind flickered, activating a wisp of power. Evelyn's felt like his heart got hammered. His body stiffened, his face pale. He clutched his chest and crouched on the ground. "You!" Masha screamed ear-piercingly like a beast. She wanted to storm over and fight Shiryan. "Calm down. Do you want your brothers to live or not? It's your brother who got angry first. I think you should talk to your brothers so they could know their position. Don't think that you guys still control everything." Audrey bellowed, her eyes chilling. Her soul power accompanied her voice and entered Masha's sea of consciousness directly. Masha felt like ice had just poured into her body. Her soft body quivered, and she resumed her sound mind. She hurried to advise the other two. "Seniors, they didn't want to kill us. They just need our cooperation." Adams woke up. He wore a bitter, sorrowful face as he sighed, "Sister, you're innocent. They won't let us leave alive. After they get what they want to know, they will kill us. If it happens that way, I would rather fight against them with my life. If we sacrifice our lives to hold them down, you can escape." As he was cruel himself, he thought that the others would act like him. He always assessed people with his best evil thoughts. He didn't buy what Audrey had promised and assured them. Evelyn's had the same thought. He didn't want to cooperate either. Audrey arched her brows. She had a headache from the other two's bad thoughts. If they didn't believe her and wanted to make them die altogether, it was going to be really hard to work with them. She couldn't help but look at Shiryan. Shiryan wore an odd face. In fact, he didn't bear good thoughts. In his eyes, such characters like Evelyn's and Adams had to be swallowed after they had no value to him at all. He increased his power that way. He didn't expect that the other two would want to kill everyone altogether instead of cooperating. Rubbing his chin, he sighed. He now had the new cognition of how cunning and evil the alien races could be. He knew that if he didn't handle it well, what he got would be 3 corpses with no useful information. "You're evil." He snorted and his mind changed as he retrieved the marks planted in Evelyn's and Adam's hearts. Then, he said, "You're free now. Even if we fight again, it will be pretty tough for us to kill you all." "Yeah. I think you know we're not the squishy persimmon that you can squeeze as you please." For big goals, he could let things go when he should. It was the fundamental characteristic of the ones who could scheme big things. Audrey's eyes brightened. She couldn't hide her compliments for him. She nodded and smiled at him before turning to the others. "Can we talk now?" "I'm afraid not." Masha was startled. She looked at the halo that suddenly emitted from a ring on her wrist and said, "The members of the Dragon Lizard clan are right in front of us. We're about to encounter them soon. It seems like we're not far from the Dragon Lizard clan's territory. We need to pass a test." "Are you kidding?" Shiryen put on the cold face. Although Evelyn's and Adam's were freed, they didn't give Shiryen good face. They stood up by Masha and were ready to fight in any minute. "I just found a situation." "I didn't mean it." "After the test, we will discuss again," Masha said with a cold face, and then she turned tender. She said, "Seniors, leave it to me. Don't be too impulsive. If you had listened to me, you wouldn't have been wounded badly like this." Adams and Evelyn's hesitated for a while and sighed inwardly. Eventually, they nodded. Chapter 1365, An Absolute Beginning Weapon? Chapter 1365, An Absolute Beginning Weapon, _ A white war chariot made of beast bones emerged in the asteroid current ahead and carried around 10 aliens. They were holding long spears and standing upright. Those aliens had gray-brown skin with a humped back. They had sharp horns on their heads while their bodies dragged a long tail. This long tail was as rigid as iron or steel with a lot of bizarre patterns. They were around 3 meters tall, their appearance fearsome. They had large hands with hook-like fingers. The auras shooting from their bodies were abundant and ferocious. This group of 10 aliens was riding the White Bone War Chariot and moving around the asteroid current to patrol. "They're the members of the Dragon Lizard clan." Masha looked at them. The ring on her wrist glowed. Just like a strange pass token, it attracted the members of the Dragon Lizard clan. They immediately approached. Audrey discolored. She quietly stayed close to Shiryen and hid behind him. She didn't dare to show her face. Her realm was pretty low in this place. From the body of those lizard warriors, she could feel the terrifying aura. Thus, she was wise enough to stay behind. They got only one first sky of Immortal realm and the rest are at incipient God realm. "You don't need to worry a lot," comforted Shiryen. "They are guards in the peripheral area of the Dragon Lizard clan. At this time, the Dragon Lizard wakes up and has his meal. He attracts a lot of people to come here, but only the ones with the pass token can really enter the Dragon Lizard clan's territory. They are the bouncers. Troublemakers, or the ones who have offended the Dragon Lizard clan, will be stopped outside. They won't allow those people to enter their territory deeply," explained Masha. It was also her first time visiting this outer space area. Anyway, Adams and Evelyn's had explained everything to her. She had the knowledge unlike the ignorant Shiryen and Audrey, who had nothing but mist in their heads. Shiryen nodded, his face extremely stern. He was ready to take action at any minute. He didn't know what the cunning Adams and Evelyn's would do after he released them. If they joined the Dragon Lizard clan warriors to attack him, he had to maintain his fighting form and fiercely smash their confidence. "Let me deal with them." Masha looked deeply at her 2 seniors. Adams and Evelyn's pulled a cold face and didn't say anything. It meant that they agreed with her. Masha immediately pitched up her voice, using a strange language to communicate with the members of the Dragon Lizard clan, who had just approached them. She handed the ring on her wrist to the leader at the Immortal realm of the patrol team. That man had ferocious eyes with a murderous aura. He received the pass token and checked it personally. After that, his countenance became more friendly. He pointed at Audrey and Shiryen, the ones who apparently didn't belong to Masha's clan, as if he was asking about their identities. Masha had prepared an excuse, so she told him fluently. The man pondered for a while and then waved his hand to dismiss the others. Right after that, the asteroid Shiryen was riding on glided through the guards of the Dragon Lizard clan, blending with the asteroid torrent. They continued to move toward the Dragon Lizard clan's territory. "What did you tell him?" Audrey was surprised. I told him that you guys were our slaves. Masha didn't conceal it. Your realms are relatively low. Saying so allowed you to go. It's because the warriors from your desolate territory haven't appeared in the sea domain of Nihility for a long time. The members of the Dragon Lizard clan aren't familiar with your kind, either. After they had passed the checking point of the Dragon Lizard clan, Masha relaxed. Adams and Evelyn's also felt much safer. Their knitted brows relaxed. Many people at the Immortal realm from our desolate territory also come here to train. No one has ever met them. Audrey couldn't understand. It was what concerned Shiryen too. He knew that Xianhe and the 4 great heavenly kings of the God clan used to cultivate in this sea domain of Nihility. Even Spark at the false Immortal realm had come to the peripheral area. Rumor said that Ming, the Soul Control Chief, had hidden his real body in the sea domain of Nihility. Thus, why did Masha say that the creatures from desolate territory hadn't visited this place for a long time? Xianhe, Ming, and the 4 great heavenly kings have never communicated with those aliens. It was unimaginable. Perhaps the warriors from desolate territory also move around the sea domain. However, they haven't come to the area where creatures gather. Maybe they don't know the specific regions where the high-level creatures appeared. Even if they've wandered around for thousands of years, they might not have seen anyone. You know that the sea domain of Nihility is immensely vast, explained Masha. It's like wandering around a vast sea alone, and there are many people like you who come from different shores. How big is the possibility for you guys to meet up? Unless you know some islands that people often visit and go to, the chances are not very high. She gave a direct and lively example. Shiryen and Audrey understood the matter immediately. The sea domain of Nihility was so vast that a lot of races dwelled in it. However, they only went to some specific zones. If you didn't know those places, it was like finding the needle in a haystack. The chance that they could meet people was so tiny. The sea domain was so vast. It would take an Immortal realm expert hundreds or even 1,000 years to run from one region to another region. Adams and Evelyn's weren't so friendly to Shiryen, but they didn't stop Masha from explaining the situation to them. It was because it was just general knowledge that wouldn't affect them a bit. She would never disclose anything related to the secret of the Heavenly Eye clan. Misha's words filled Audrey with sadness. If there were no creatures from desolate territory operating here, Audrey wasn't going to be able to find someone she knew to find the way home. In other words, they were going to be stuck here for a long time. What do you know about the dark energy? Asked Shiryen all of a sudden. From what Ziyao and Tianxia had said, he knew that the new power in his sea of consciousness was called the dark energy. It was also the energy that Bloodthirsty had controlled that year. Besides Bloodthirsty, he was the second one who understood that energy in desolate territory. He understood that the dark energy was very powerful and intimidating. However, he didn't know how to use it. He didn't know about its origin and its particular features. He thought that Masha's team had communicated with the aliens a lot, so perhaps she knew something about the dark energy. He wanted to know more about the dark energy. Strangely, Masha was so surprised that she shook her head. Dark energy? What kind of energy is that? I have never heard about it before. Evelyn's, who had kept silent for a long time, suddenly discolored. He looked frightened. He gazed at Shiryen and asked, You killed the owner of desolate territory and replaced the absolute beginning creature there. Not yet, Shiryen shook his head. Then how do you know the dark energy? Evelyn's was astounded. Shiryen was surprised. He was moved. He urged the power in his sea of consciousness. His body faded and turned invisible. An invisible soul energy rippled, and the void around them seemed to shatter. The massive asteroids were smashed by an invisible hand. I can use the dark energy. Although I'm at the most preliminary phase, I control that power, he explained. Evelyn's was shaken. He took a deep breath and said bitterly, If you had told us that you control that power, we wouldn't have touched you. You're such a monster. Senior? Adams was also bewildered. Since he didn't know how marvelous the dark energy was, he looked skeptical. That dark energy is also called the negative energy. It totally contrasts to our God power. This kind of energy can't be recognized. However, along with the energies that control this vast sea of stars, it's deemed the energy of the creators. Only the ones understanding the dark energy could create the universe and get through the immortal realm to reach the level of the territory ancestor. In this vast sea of stars, not many people could control the dark energy. Each of them is an absolute character who can shoulder the entire world. The dark energy can create the world or the new universe. It's the mysterious energy that only the experts at the territory ancestors level could have. It comes from the strongest creatures in the Absolute Beginning Era. Legend said that the Absolute Beginning Era ended because of the overuse of dark energy. It shattered the entire universe. The partially collapsed pieces of the universe had created the sea domain of nihility we see today. Our Heavenly Eye clan doesn't have any warrior cultivating the dark energy. As far as I know, each expert who controls the dark energy has become the territory ancestor of a world. The territory ancestor is the title of the peerless experts who have surpassed the immortal realm. They could create a world belonging to them. They could create creatures. Each of the strong absolute beginning creatures is one of the territory ancestors. They are the ancestors of a universe. They control the lives of the creatures living there. They could distort the rules of nature as they are the sole god of that world. When he looked at Shuryen again, he was filled with fear. You've reached only third sky of incipient god realm, but you can control the dark energy. No wonder why you're so fierce. It means that after you've reached the immortal realm, you will become more domineering. Also, it's possible that you can become a new territory ancestor. You can create your own world with unique creatures. What he said had shaken the others. Adams and Masha were also frightened. When they looked at Shuryen, they didn't keep their usual complexion. The precursor from the second generation of the Dragon Lizard clan, the one called Dragon Lizard, can pull the current of asteroids while eating. Does he know the dark energy? Asked Shuryen strangely. No, Evelyn shook his head. His realm and power are approaching the territory ancestors level. Unfortunately, he hasn't mastered the dark energy yet, so he can't create a whole new world. He can't be deemed the new territory ancestor. Anyway, he's a peerless warrior indeed. He's very famous in the sea domain of nihility. After they knew that Shuryen had the dark energy, Evelyn's changed his attitude toward Shuryen. It seemed like he had forgotten the resentment they had caused. He was so cooperative and he answered everything the others asked him. Shuryen looked disappointed. When he heard that Dragon Lizard was the second generation of lizard, the absolute beginning creature, he thought that Dragon Lizard controlled the dark energy. He hoped to know the features of this marvelous power. Unexpectedly, such a formidable creature like him hadn't decoded the true power of dark energy yet. He suddenly recognized that if Bloodthirsty wasn't killed that year, he could have been the character at the Lord level in the sea domain of nihility. Rubbing his chin, he pondered for a while and then used the space saber to cut the asteroid underneath, revealing a part of the three-legged jade cauldron. He exposed the tadpole characters and asked, "Is it the language of the absolute beginning era? Do you know those symbols? Also, do you know how to tame this thing?" Evelyn stooped to observe and then he became petrified. After a long time, he pulled himself together and asked, "Please tell the truth. Did you kill the territory ancestor and replace it? Otherwise, why do you control the dark energy and the divine weapon from the absolute beginning era?" Chapter 1366, A Derelict Item. Chapter 1366, A Derelict Item. An absolute beginning divine weapon. Shuryen let out a low shout as he was surprised. He looked at the cauldron underneath and said, "Is this really a weapon from the absolute beginning era? Are you sure?" Evelyn's had an awkward expression. "Although I don't know absolute beginning characters, I used to see them before. They are real absolute beginning characters. I'm not making a mistake. Since you know the dark energy, you must have contacted the absolute beginning creature. Why don't you know the absolute beginning era's characters?" He found that it was so inexplicable. More than Shuryen. "So, you don't know how to tame it?" Shuryen looked disappointed. The truth about the greatness of dark energy and the divine weapons from the absolute beginning era is shared between a very small group of people. I haven't reached such a high realm yet." Evelyn showed his admiration. "At your realm, you quickly understood the dark energy. You will definitely become an existence at the territory ancestor level. I beg for your mercy. Please forgive us for we have offended you. He looked really honest. Adams and Mash were bewildered. They could react timely. They immediately bowed and tried to look humble. They didn't want to offend an expert who could bring a disaster to the Heavenly Eye clan. In their clan, the three of them were outstanding experts. They had joined hands, but they couldn't kill Shiryen. At the same time, Shiryen had endless room to grow, and he could control the dark energy and even a divine weapon from the absolute beginning era. Such an existence would become a character that would top the pyramid of the Sea of Stars. Although Evelyn's had cunning and evil deeds, he did have a wide vision. He knew that there were people he shouldn't provoke. The three members of the Heavenly Eye clan had changed their attitude, which surprised Shiryen a lot. Even when he had planted a deadly mark into their hearts, he couldn't make them follow him. However, just a glimpse of dark energy made Evelyn's, the most stubborn among the three, subdued. He showed Shiryen the most humble facet of his. The situation had developed into a tendency that Shiryen and Audrey had never expected. At this moment, they were both startled. You should hide this absolute beginning divine weapon. Or else, it will draw a lot of troubles. Evelyn's contemplated for a while and then suggested. Our competencies aren't really excellent. We know how strong you are. We won't be greedy. However, we will encounter more experts when we get closer to the Dragon Lizard clan's territory. I'm sure we will meet someone stronger than us. If they know you have the absolute beginning weapon, they will try their best to rob it from you. Pausing for a while, Evelyn's looked yearning. As far as I've known, in this vast sea of stars, the number of real absolute beginning divine weapons can be counted on with your fingers. Each of them is so earth-shaking that I can't describe it to you. Only the experts at the territory ancestor level can control those weapons. They won't be afraid that someone can snatch it. And only they can maximize the real power of those weapons. The absolute beginning divine weapons are extreme weapons of the absolute beginning era. Some say that the absolute beginning creatures had forged them, and some say that they were born naturally at the beginning of the universe. They are super powerful and supernatural. They could promote the warriors to the ultimate level. Listening to Evelyn's, Shiryen and Audrey exchanged looks. They all looked moved. It's not really possible to tame it within a short time. Do you have any method to conceal it or stash it away? Whispered Audrey. Shiryen forced a smile. How do you know if this thing is derelict or not? Their conversation surprised Evelyn's team. Masha hesitated for a while and then said, so that absolute beginning divine weapon isn't yours. If it were ours, why would we ask you a lot of questions about it? Shiryen suddenly got a headache. He had a dejected feeling like someone sitting on a gold mountain who couldn't exploit it. This marvelous treasure was underneath, but they couldn't refine or tame it to get to know its superpower. If it isn't yours, why are you writing on it? Evelyn's was bewildered. His eyes brightened. So, it's unowned now? You didn't see its owner, did you? He suddenly became so excited, speaking with a red face. I heard that the absolute beginning weapons have consciousness, and they can choose the master themselves. It depends on good encounters. The attributes of the power Upanishad can make the weapon subdued and follow you. There are many studies about this. Some even said that if you have good fortune, you can. Adams and Masha cheered up. They felt like they were the ones with that good encounter. They thought they could be the ones with the required attributes mentioned in legends. They gathered by the area where the symbols were exposed and then released the soul consciousness, urging their power Upanishad. They were trying to create some resonance to make the divine weapon notice them. They even forgot about Shiryen, a deadly danger. The big enticement of the absolute beginning divine weapon was so irresistible. They had even forgotten themselves. However, shortly after, they retrieved their power, their faces pale and aghast. The soul energy they had released had fallen into the center of the three-legged jade cauldron and vanished. They couldn't retrieve anything. The exposed area of the jade cauldron seemed to have more symbols. Nothing else had happened. Was it the thing that had swallowed my soul energy? Evelyn's finally reacted. Shiryen nodded with a bitter smile. Don't try anymore. I repeat, do not try. Your soul will be drained. Evelyn's gritted his teeth, snorted, and stopped Adams and Masha. I think this absolute beginning divine weapon is broken or incomplete. Otherwise, it wouldn't behave that way. Audrey's bright eyes became clear. I'm noticing one thing. Whenever it gathers more soul energy, it will have more symbols on the cauldron body. I've noticed that the symbols haven't covered the cauldron entirely. Perhaps when it gathers enough soul energy to create the symbols and fill the blank on the surface of the cauldron, something magical will happen. Hearing her, Shiryen looked pensive. He nodded discreetly. He guessed the same thing. If this divine weapon had a tool spirit, it was going to be dormant because of serious damages. Otherwise, it wouldn't have set the trap to capture more souls of creatures. That way, it could gather the energy it needed to wake up. Let's secure this secret first. All of a sudden, the ring on Masha's wrist sparkled continuously. She screamed and then explained to Shiryen, it's the token that the Dragon Lizard clan has issued. The tokens can sense each other. Someone is coming. I think they're headed to the Dragon Lizard clan like us. Yeah. Dragon Lizard has attracted a lot of people living outside to come this time. Our Heavenly Eye clan is just a small party, said Evelyn's. This immense sea of stars has so many territories and various species. There are many races I haven't seen or heard about before. If you don't visit the sea domain of nihility, you will never know the endless mysteries of the universe. You will never see so many different high-level creatures. We don't need to conceal it. It will disguise itself, said Audrey faintly. As soon as she finished, the asteroid underneath them released a sucking force and gathered some rocks to fill the gap. It became a normal rock shortly after. Look ahead of us, Masha said. She looked gingerly. Shiryen's mind flickered. He transformed back to his human form. He looked like an ordinary man without anything strange on his body. Shortly after, a massive blue glass ball emerged ahead of them. That glass ball was so huge. It was much bigger than the asteroid they were riding. That glass ball had a blue cover and it contained seething seawater. There were so many palaces built in the seawater where many beautiful men and women were moving back and forth. That glass ball was like a super battleship. Those elegant and graceful creatures looked similar to human beings. However, they were all slender and slim. Their bodies emitted water energy fluctuations. They could breathe freely while moving in the water inside the glass ball. They looked pretty relaxed. Members of the water tribe. From a distance, Evelyn's exhaled in relief. He smiled. The water tribe isn't a combative tribe. Unless you provoke them, they won't attack people proactively. The members of this clan are beautiful. They all cultivate water power Upanishad. This tribe has the best relationship with the Dragon Lizard clan. They look similar to the sea tribe in our place, mumbled Audrey. It's normal, Masha smiled and explained. Usually, the absolute beginning creatures can't create creatures from nothing. They got the models anyway. Perhaps the races that the absolute beginning creature had created in your desolate territory exist in the world outside the sea domain of nihility. As far as I know, many people that come from different territories could be from one race. Oh, right. In the sea domain of nihility, the human clan is also the clan with the biggest population. They can mate with any other race and it can result in a new race. The human clan's reproduction and blending ability are acknowledged as the strongest in this entire universe. I don't know if it's true that most of the races have a similar appearance to the human race. Anyway, you can tell from some small details. For example, our clan has one extra eye compared to human clan. The water tribe has more water in their bodies, and they cultivate water power Upanishad. It's so, Shiryen was surprised. Human clan also had the biggest population in the star areas like Raging Flame Star Area and Agate Star Area. Their adaptive ability to the given circumstances was surprising. They could endure and adapt to any condition. At the same time, their reproductive rate was high with the super powerful fusing ability. In any area, the human clan had always accounted for a large portion of the population. It seemed like Desolate hadn't created the human clan in the desolate territory from nothing. It had referred to the characteristics of the human clan out there, indeed. Strictly speaking, Shiryen's body was the mix between the human clan and the immortal demon clan. However, after his realm had reached a profound level, he completely replaced his blood and become a real immortal demon warrior. After that complete transformation, he couldn't even tell what race he belonged to. While he was contemplating, the asteroid underneath his feet still moved forward quickly. It aimed directly at the glass ball of the water tribe. Without an external force to interfere, it was going to bump into the glass ball directly. Chapter 1367, Ming. Chapter 1367, Ming. Audrey's sharp sense told her that something was wrong. Her face became serious and her eyes twinkled. Shiryen, this situation isn't good. At this moment, the members of the Heavenly Eye clan hadn't recognized the complicated situation. They thought that Shiryen and Audrey had driven the asteroid approaching the glass ball of the water tribe to talk to them. What? Shiryen woke up from his thoughts. He looked baffled. Audrey pointed at the rock underneath and the glass palaces of the water tribe in front of them, wincing. We're about to make impact. Listening to her, Shiryen was frightened. He became so tense and grave. You guys can't control this asteroid? Masha could see that detail. Her face grimaced immediately. Are we about to hit them? While she was talking, the asteroid didn't subside and was grumblingly dashing toward the water tribe's glass ball. The beautiful people of the water tribe were still smiling and talking. They didn't consider Shiryen's asteroid. When the rock was approaching, they smiled brightly when they saw the Heavenly Eye members. Because they knew the others, they thought that Evelyn's group wanted to come and say hello. This was until they found that the asteroid was pretty close to them and didn't reduce its speed. It was still dashing at a breakneck speed toward them. The beautiful people of the water tribe discolored and screamed in panic. At this moment, the asteroid Shiryen was riding was very close to them. Even if the water tribe wanted to avoid it, it was too late. We can't hit them, Evelyn's cried. Although the water tribe is tender and friendly, they are really tough. Those people have a good relationship with Dragon Lizard Clan. If we offend them, I'm afraid we won't be able to enter Dragon Lizard Clan's territory more. Shiryen's eyes turned crimson abruptly. An immense energy arose from his head. Shortly after, the nearest asteroids around were pulled, and it created a barrier between them and the water tribe's palace. Watch out! Protect yourself, cried Shiryen. Evelyn's, Audrey, and the others didn't think too much. They created a light protection and gathered the energy in their bodies to counter the destructive energy when the impact occurred. However, they were dumbstruck when they saw what happened. At the critical moment when the three-legged jade cauldron was about to hit an asteroid, a weak wisp of energy emerged. Right after that, the asteroid they were riding trembled and made a swift turn to avoid the big rock in front of them. The members of the Heavenly Eye clan and the water tribe sweated in fear. They still looked panicked. They understood that when the asteroid with the jade cauldron inside hit the asteroid around the glass palace of the water tribe, the shock waves of the explosion were able to result in an extreme loss to both sides. The explosion that occurred when the asteroids impacted was something that even the Immortal realm experts couldn't stand, especially with such a short distance. Adam's and Evelyn's turned ashen. They knew that when they impacted, they couldn't endure it. The fragments of the explosion were going to crush them into powder. Fortunately, what they had worried about didn't happen. They were so anxious, standing on the asteroid, which was gradually drifting toward the glass ball of the water tribe. At this moment, the glass ball was flying fast like a frightened little girl trying to run away from the bully. The water tribe tried to lengthen the distance between them. They all thought that Shiryen's group was crazy. At the same time, a handsome gentleman flew out of the ball, his face cold. He floated above the other's asteroid, asking, "Are you crazy, people from the Heavenly Eye clan? Do you want to fight against us? Why did you act so wild like that?" Evelyn's looked sour. He hurried to bend his body to greet the man, speaking, "I'm so sorry. We suddenly lost the control of this asteroid. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so tense. You see, at our realms, if we hit you, we wouldn't survive. We're not crazy." Evelyn's and the man from the water tribe were using another language to communicate, which Audrey and Shiryen couldn't understand. What are they talking about? Audrey used the language of the desolate territory to ask, you guys understand only the language of the desolate territory. It's really difficult to communicate with other people in the sea domain. If you don't mind, I'll share my language seal with you. You just need to use your soul to grab it. How does it sound? Masha smiled. Don't worry. Sharing languages has no risk. I open it and you guys just need to let your soul shroud it. No problem. Audrey nodded to Shiryen and said, extracting memories isn't a big deal to our Imperial Dark Tribe. I also know many languages of the rural area by using the method that she has mentioned. All right, Shiryen looked calm. He understood that it was just a small trick. Masha's third eye twitched as she released a soul magnetic field. In the next moment, 2 dim light dots emerged from her eyes. Those dim light dots were memory seals. As long as they had it in their head, they could understand many languages used in outer space. Audrey and Shiryen released their soul consciousness to cover the 2 dim dots that contained the languages used in the sea domain. They pulled them into their heads and made them a part of their memories. Many different languages moved and were implanted in their heads like electrical signals. They became a part of their souls. Then, Shiryen and Audrey could understand the conversation between Evelyn's and the man from the Water Tribe. They were using a simple but archaic language, which was the easiest language in outer space. Most of the races working in the universe knew this common language. Oh, you speak the language of desolate territory. Are you from desolate territory? Suddenly, the handsome man of the Water Tribe was startled while talking W.H. Evelyn's. He turned to look at Shiryen and Audrey. All of a sudden, he looked emotional. Yes, we're from desolate territory. Why are you so surprised? Asked Audrey. There was an expert from desolate territory. He used to cross our territory. He had a good relationship with our Water Tribe. However, he left later and an expert of the Soul Clan had captured him. That expert from desolate territory had given his favor to me. Unfortunately, the Soul Clan is too domineering. I can't help him. The handsome man from the Water Tribe sighed and looked lost. He studied Audrey for a while and then said surprisedly, you and that man should be from the same race in desolate territory. Oh! Audrey's eyes turned bright. Do you know his name? Ming Hong. His name is Ming Hong, said the man. Audrey was shaken and her eyes brightened up. She was in disbelief, oh my. I didn't expect it to be him. It turns out that he's here all the time. Who is he? Shiryen sounded surprised. Do you remember that I used to tell you that my Imperial Dark Tribe's records say that our precursor used to visit the sea domain and find aliens who he couldn't communicate with because of the different languages? Asked Audrey. Shiryen nodded. He's the one who made those records. He should be my ancestor. According to my mother, tens of thousands of years ago before Bloodthirsty, it was the time of our Imperial Dark Tribe in our galaxy. Because of Bloodthirsty, our Imperial Dark Tribe started declining. In that era, our Imperial Dark Tribe had lost many experts. Some of them went missing too. I heard that since Precursor Ming Hong knew he wasn't Bloodthirsty's match, he had escaped to the sea domain of nihility to cultivate ascetically and waited for the chance to save Imperial Dark Tribe. Unfortunately, he had never come back. We thought that he had left for a long time. He was the one with the deepest knowledge of the sea domain of nihility in our tribe. He had documented his experiences in the sea domain of nihility. In fact, Ming Hong was the first teacher of my uncle Ming Hao. Mother told me that he had named him Ming Hao. He was my grandfather's cousin. When he was in our Imperial Dark Tribe, he was also an outstanding warrior, indeed. Audrey slowly explained. In the end, her face turned stern. If we can find Ming Hong, perhaps we will find the way home. Shiryen's eyes brightened. According to Audrey, Ming Hong was the sage of desolate territory who had entered the sea domain of nihility several times and had come back safely. Of course, he would know how to return to desolate territory. If they could find him, they would know the way to go home. My advice to you: do not think about it, frowned the man of the Water Tribe. He's captured by an expert of the Soul Clan. He's now one of the 9 great brutal souls of that expert. In this vast sea of stars, the Soul Clan is too domineering. That expert is terrifying too. I don't dare to provoke him, let alone kids like you two. Pausing for a while, he snorted and then said, considering that you're from the same territory as him, I'll forgive you for your offense this time. Still, my advice to you: Forget what I've told you. Don't provoke that expert from the Soul Clan. I heard that he'll come here this time too. He's an old friend of Dragon Lizard. You two should stay away from them. Then, he stopped caring about Yan's group and returned to the glass palace with a cold face. He ordered his tribal members to continue the journey. What is the Soul Clan? Is it very fierce? Yan looked at the members of the Heavenly Eye clan. The other three nodded with a heavy face. Evelyn's answered, this vast sea of stars had millions of species. Anyway, they don't have the same competencies. The Soul Clan is one of the 7 strongest clans that the entire universe has acknowledged. Compared to the Soul Clan, our Heavenly Eye clan is just a minor race. How about the Dragon Lizard clan? Yan asked again. Lizard, the ancestor of the Dragon Lizard clan, was gone for a long time. Currently, Dragon Lizard, the 2nd generation, hasn't reached the territory ancestor level yet. Thus, the Dragon Lizard clan is just a 2nd-class clan. However, the Soul Clan, the race that had appeared together with our Heavenly Eye clan after the Absolute Beginning era, has an expert at the territory ancestor level. They got the expert who can control the dark energy. The foundation of the Soul Clan isn't something that ordinary people can compete with, said Evelyn's with respect and admiration. Chapter 1368, The 7 Great Races. Chapter 1368, The 7 Great Races, _. Soul Clan? 7 Great Races? It seems that this vast sea of stars has so many things that we don't know yet. Can you tell us more? Yan was watching the large glass ball of the water tribe floating and bobbing like a massive buoy and drifting forward. Slowly, it accelerated. As he had just arrived at this place, he had a shadow understanding of much more common knowledge of the sea domain of nihility. Without Evelyn's useful information, they would have encountered unexpected troubles in their journey. Thus, before they reached the Dragon Lizard clan's territory, he must have a good grasp of this area. I beg for your favor, said Evelyn's. What's that? Yan furrowed his brows. I can give you a thorough answer of what you are suspicious of. I can tell you everything I know. I'm begging you for one favor, that if you reach the territory ancestor level one day, please take one member of our Heavenly Eye clan to be your disciple. Evelyn's looked tense and anxious as he gazed at Yan. The Heavenly Eye clan in this vast sea of stars was just a 3rd-class clan. Their territory was filled with dangers, and their people had to live in harsh conditions. Moreover, around their territory was where many powerful races lived. They often had disputes, but the Heavenly Eye clan didn't have advantages in fighting. Normally, if one clan wanted to become stronger and get approval from the higher-level races, they had only one way to do that. They must have a real expert in their clan. Until now, the Heavenly Eye clan never had any existence at the territory ancestor level. It was the main reason why they could only stand in the back of the line. To reach the territory ancestor level, one had to know the dark energy. However, the experts with the dark energy would never share its magnificent power. Unless they had to kneel in front of some expert, they would have the chance to receive training and guidance from him to understand the truth of the dark energy. That way, they could eventually reach the territory ancestor level too. To Evelyn's, improving the capacity of his race was more important than anything else. At their 3rd-class competence, it was going to be pretty hard for the Heavenly Eye clan to gain favor from the real experts. They couldn't enroll to become a disciple of the expert who controlled dark energy. And now, Yan was their best option. Since Yan's realm was still low now, if they bet on him, when he reached the territory ancestor level in the future, Evelyn's could win big. He would finally have a chance for the Heavenly Eye clan to get in the line of the top species. Of course, they had to assume that Yan could break through to that level. Otherwise, his support would be in vain. Evelyn's was smart. He knew that even if he failed, he could neutralize the relationship with Yan. When they could eliminate one enemy, it was a big fortune for the entire Heavenly Eye clan. Hearing him, Adam's and Masha's eyes sparkled. They were so excited that their bodies quivered. They bowed to Yan, their faces begging. At this moment, Masha finally knew Evelyn's vision, and she understood why Adams, the one with the small, witted schemes, would always listen to Evelyn's in big matters. If Evelyn's deed succeeded today, It would become the great fortune to the Heavenly Eye clan. Masha now respected and admired her senior a lot. Well, the future is still far ahead. I'm at incipient god realm only. Don't you think it's too vague to bet on me until I reach the territory ancestor level? Shiryen was surprised. Evelyn's gave a forced smile and said honestly, with our Heavenly Eye clan's general competencies, we would never be eligible to be chosen by the real territory ancestor experts. It's sad. You can at least give us hope, although it's a vague dream. As long as we have hope, it will be all right. Okay. Shiryen pondered for a few seconds and then agreed resolutely. I pledge that if I one day reach the territory ancestor level, I will accept one member of your Heavenly Eye clan to be my disciple. I will teach him the truth of powers and make him understand power Upanishads thoroughly. Evelyn's, Adams, and Masha bowed to thank Shiryen in their Heavenly Eye clan's special way. They looked excited as if they saw their grand future. Now, you should tell me more useful information, urged Shiryen. As you wish. Evelyn's wore a respectful face. While the asteroid was heading to the Dragon Lizard clan's territory, he told Shiryen everything he knew about the mysteries of the Soul Can and the Seven Great Race, about all sorts of secrets of the territory, and some rumors about the absolute beginning creatures. Through Evelyn's introduction, Shiryen knew that the terrifying battle between the absolute beginning creatures had ended the absolute beginning era. After that, the mysterious world had given birth to many species. They didn't have giant bodies like absolute beginning creatures. However, when they cultivated to the utmost level, they could still reach the same level of power as the absolute beginning creatures. Later on, so many races had appeared and many of them were related to the absolute beginning creatures. For example, the Dragon Lizard clan was related to lizard, and there were many more cases. Among so many species, many creatures weren't really powerful but had some marvelous power. The human clan, for example, had ordinary fighting competencies and average foundations. However, they could interbreed with other races to create new living beings. Races in the universe had been ranked based on their power into first class, second class, and third class. There were countless third-class clans like the Heavenly Eye clan. There were dozens of second-class clans, but everybody had acknowledged the 7 strongest clans, including the Soul Clan, the Mysterious Sky Clan, the Dark Demon Clan, the Ancient Monster Clan, the Devouring Clan, the White Bone Clan, and the Phantom Clan. These 7 great races lived in different, big territories of the sea domain of nihility. They became the overlord of their areas. Each of these clans had their special abilities. The Soul Clan, the Mysterious Sky Clan, the Dark Demon Clan, the Ancient Monster Clan, the Devouring Clan, the White Bone Clan, and the Phantom Clan were the strongest clans in the Sea of Stars. Everybody knew that. Those clans had experts at the Territory Ancestor level. Aside from the Territory Ancestor experts, they also had many experts at the Immortal realm that were close to the Territory Ancestor level. They had a strict scale and criteria to rank the experts. The small, weak races had to admire and respect the warriors of the big races. Many second-class or third-class clans had to depend on them. They considered the relationship they could form with the big races their glory. At the same time, the strong races also tried to gather more potential second-class races to their side. For example, the clansmen of the Soul Clan that the Waterman had mentioned had a good relationship with Dragon Lizard. This time, he had crossed millions of miles to visit Dragon Lizard, and he was going to try to persuade Dragon Lizard to strengthen the relationship between the Dragon Lizard clan and the Soul Clan. The best scenario was that they could be officially united. However, the Soul Clan wanted to make the Dragon Lizard clan follow their league and become their vassal. Thus, the Dragon Lizard clan would be placed under the Soul Clan's protection. Also, when needed, the Dragon Lizard clan would have to help the Soul Clan too. After Evelyn's had told him about the competencies of the Soul Clan, Shiryen couldn't hide his fear. He turned to Audrey. If we meet that guy, we should try to hold it down. Even if we make a mess, we can't do anything worthy. According to Evelyn's, after the Immortal realm, it was the Territory Ancestor level. The creatures from the absolute beginning era that still existed were all at the Territory Ancestor level. It meant that the Soul Clan had at least one or two intimidating members at Desolate and Huey's level. This clan's foundation was unimaginable indeed. Perhaps, when Hui and Desolate fought against the Soul Clan, they wouldn't gain the upper hand, especially when Desolate and Hui hadn't fully recovered yet and Desolate's body was still detached. Shiryen and Audrey had seen Huey's power with their own eyes. This sort of terrifying power was like their worst nightmare. And at that time, Hui hadn't recovered fully when they fought. Thinking about the characters at Huey's level in the Soul Clan, Shiryen and Audrey felt their scalps become numb as they felt so small. Don't worry. I know how to behave. I'm not foolish, Audrey pulled a bitter face. While they were listening to Evelyn's introduction of the races in the universe, the asteroid underneath them was flying fast. They also encountered many aliens from different races on the way. At the end of the asteroid current, they saw a massive planet. That planet looked pretty strange with innumerable caves and dents. It seemed like they had hollowed out the entire planet. Dragon Lizard Star is the Dragon Lizard Clan's territory. In the sea domain of nihility, there is no complete planet. Dragon Lizard Star was formed by countless broken crystals. Dragon Lizard had used his supernatural power to gather them and pile them up. After so many years, they've become what we see now, explained Evelyn's. Shiryan's eyes brightened. He found that even though Dragon Lizard Star was so big, more than a dozen times bigger than Grace Mainland, this planet had countless slits and pits on the surface. They were the vestiges left after the asteroids were put together. Also, he saw many dark, bottomless caves. Dragon Lizard Star's surface was yellow-brown, and there was a suction force emitted from so many caves. From his position, Shiryen saw many asteroid currents drifting toward the caves on Dragon Lizard Star. They were like open mouths trying to swallow all the free matter in the sea of stars. How big is that dragon lizard? What does it mean by having a meal? Is he swallowing all of those asteroids? When they saw Dragon Lizard Star and what Evelyn's had told them, Audrey was dumbstruck. Dragon Lizard's body is massive. Yeah. It's many times bigger than the asteroid we are riding. However, he's not the entire planet. He stays deep inside the planet while using his power Upanishad to draw the asteroids. He doesn't really eat those rocks. He absorbs the energy inside them. He can find and absorb that sort of energy. Ordinary warriors can't do that. After he's done with the asteroids, they will become powder or small rocks and pile up on the planet, becoming part of it. Or he will throw them directly to the area where there is nothing. Evelyn smiled and introduced more marvelous features to the others. We will visit Dragon Lizard Star. The members of the Dragon Lizard clan will welcome us by the caves down there. They will take us to the festival. We don't need to do much here. What should we do with this? Audrey was bewildered. Looking at the rock they were riding, she looked dejected. The three-legged jade cauldron hid inside this asteroid. They didn't know what it was besides the fact that it was a divine weapon from the absolute beginning era. If it fell into Dragon Lizard's stomach, would it be really bad? It wasn't that they weren't predestined with this divine weapon. It was more important that they couldn't tame it or keep it. Just let it go. I'll leave a mark on it. Then, we can only see what the mighty heaven wants, said Shiryen resolutely. Chapter 1369, Immortal Pellet. Chapter 1369, Immortal Pellet, _ Shiryen released a flow of soul energy with the dark energy as the core. It stuck on the surface of the three-legged jade cauldron inside the asteroid. He jumped on the flaming crystal cloud boat of the Heavenly Eye clan together with Audrey and then watched the asteroid with the cauldron inside enter a massive cave on Dragon Lizard Star. The massive three-legged cauldron didn't refuse Shiryan's mark with the dark energy as the foundation. He could use his soul to connect to that wisp of energy that he had left. We'll go this way. Evelyn's was looking at that asteroid disappearing and yearning. Then, he pointed to a cave where the white-bone battleships of the Dragon Lizard clan were anchored. Some Dragon Lizard warriors were waiting for them there. There were many strange-shaped battleships and war chariots carrying the members of the alien tribes and getting into the Dragon Lizard clan's territory through the caves. There was no clouds or mist surrounding Dragon Lizard Star. This entire planet was exposed directly to outer space. Many caves on the surface of the planet were sucking in the asteroids while the clan was using some small caves to pick up the visitors and deliver them into the planet. We will go into the star directly like that. Audrey was astounded. Imperial Dark Tribe lived on the surface of God-blessed mainland. They didn't live underground where there was no sunshine. With her mindset, she thought that they would land on the surface of Dragon Lizard Star. However, she found that those peculiar aliens directly went into the hollowed Dragon Lizard Star through the caves. She was very surprised. Of course, the surface layer of Dragon Lizard Star is filled with fragments and debris from broken stars. The Dragon Lizard clan has never fixed or leveled them. They just live inside the planet, Evelyn's explained naturally. Shortly after, their flaming crystal cloud boat approached the entrance. Masha slid the ring off her wrist to show the guards. Evelyn's talked to the guards, and they allowed them to pass. The flaming crystal cloud boat moved through a gray area that was like a vacuum and then fell into a massive abyss. That abyss was like a marvelous, imposing valley with round walls where there were so many caves. The members of different races were moving in and out those caves. Inside the valley, there was a flat parking lot. Their flaming crystal cloud boat landed in between so many differently shaped battleships. After a dragon lizard warrior checked their pass token, he called another guard to bring them to where they would be staying. The guard took them to one of the caves they had seen on the way there. After getting inside, they found that the cave was pretty spacious with many rooms of different sizes. This cave had cultivating rooms, bathrooms, and even a chamber to refine tools. Basically, it had all the things they needed. The members of the Dragon Lizard clan dwell inside the caves. Because this Dragon Lizard star was formed by broken stars and asteroids, it doesn't have surface or any florus. It has only fragments of broken stars and cosmic dust force to stick together. Anyway, the members of the Dragon Lizard clan like rocks. They even have rock-like skin. They love to live inside the caves. After the guard left, Evelyn smiled and explained. Their cave was situated on the side of the round wall. Shiryen observed and found that this area was like a massive teacup. The bottom was the parking yard where they had anchored the battleships and war chariots. The wall of the cup was dug to make many rooms to accommodate the visitors. They pulled themselves together to observe. They found that the areas next to them and opposite of them had many living beings like them who were discussing with each other in a strange language. Although he had used the seal of memory he got from Masha, Shiryen couldn't understand what they were talking about. Those creatures were using their special language that Shiryen didn't have in his memory seal. Staying in those caves were many creatures with intimidating auras. Most of them were at Original God Realm, Ethereal God Realm, or Incipient God Realm. There were some Immortal Realm experts, but they were at first sky of Immortal Realm. Shiryen didn't sense the aura of any second sky of Immortal Realm expert. The members of the Dragon Lizard clan acted because the receptionist had just Ethereal God Realm or Incipient God Realm. They had arranged the visitors from different clans to rest and recover in their cave accommodation. Around 1,000 people. Around 10 warriors have reached first sky of Immortal Realm. Audrey squinted and released her soul consciousness. Shortly after, she realized the strengths of everyone and became surprised. Oh, their realms aren't really profound. Evelyn's was aghast as he looked at her. You've just reached first sky of Incipient God Realm. How can you see so many things like that? Audrey didn't answer. Evelyn's was startled. He didn't dare to look down on her anymore and explained, it's just an accommodation here. The Dragon Lizard clan has many areas like this. They preserve some special areas for intimidating clans. Oh, you can say that it like this. Our area is the place for the third-class races. Previously, he didn't respect Audrey as he thought that Audrey was inferior to Shiryen. At first sky of Incipient Realm, she wasn't really worth mentioning. At his realm, he couldn't see and analyze the realms of warriors in this area. Audrey could do that with a flicker of her soul. It astounded him a lot. That was how he knew that Audrey wasn't just an ordinary warrior. He had to be careful when talking to her. There are many similar areas? Audrey's cold face had a tint of fear. Of course. You see the warriors of the Water Tribe, right? Since they have a better relationship with the Dragon Lizard clan, they are better accommodated. If the members of the Soul Clan and the other 6 great clans come, the Dragon Lizard clan will treat them as the most distinguished guests. They will have the best treatment, and the seniors of the Dragon Lizard clan will have to welcome them personally, said Ivlins with a little dejection. Their Heavenly Eye clan was just a third-class race. They weren't even as strong as the Dragon Lizard clan. Of course, the others weren't going to appreciate them. Having a lodge was good enough. Anyway, they felt regretful and dejected. While they were talking, the members of the other races were staying and discussing in their caves. The Dragon Lizard clan took more and more visitors, arranging them to stay in different caves. By the anchored battleships, there was a massive jade platform like a lotus. Some warriors were sitting by the edge of that platform, lowering their heads and discussing. They had some cultivating materials, pellets, wood logs, scriptures, and even rare crystals. What's that? Shiryen pointed at the lotus-like platform. After the members of different clans came, they need time to adjust and prepare. Dragon Lizard needs more time to finish his meal anyway. The festival will be held when most of the guests arrive. Before that, we have to wait in our cave. Of course, the Dragon Lizard clan has some other arrangements. That lotus platform is set up so the members of different clans can have a place to trade cultivating materials. Anyone with extra weapons or weapons they don't use can exchange there. Evelyn smiled and paused for a while. Then, he continued, most of them are interested in the immortal pellet of the Dragon Lizard clan. I take my sister here with the hope of getting one immortal pellet. Of course, it's unpredictable if we can have one. Immortal pellet? Audrey looked moved. What do you mean? Evelyn's looked at Masha and said, my sister is at third sky of incipient god realm. If she gets an immortal pellet of the Dragon Lizard clan, perhaps she can break through to the immortal realm. In this vast cosmos, this immortal pellet is a magical item indeed. Even the 7 great clans don't have extras to preserve. Hearing him, Shiryen looked thrilled. He shouted, it can help break through to the immortal realm? How can it do that? It's impossible to reach this spectacular realm with only a pellet. If you knew how hard it is to refine an immortal pellet, you would believe it. Evelyn's gave a forced smile. How to refine immortal pellets is still an unsolved riddle. There is a rumor that says that only the absolute beginning creatures know how, and only the experts at the territory ancestor level can refine them. The immortal pellet requires at least one level 7 life star with billions of lives as the foundation. The territory ancestor experts have to refine the entire life star with billions of lives on it and resize it to the size of a pellet. The level 7 life stars and billions of lives on it together with the earth and heaven energy there form the immortal pellet, which can deceive the hand of the creator to help experts reach immortal realm. Evelyn's didn't mind how Shiryen and Audrey looked aghast. He continued, of course, the pellet will just increase the chance for the peak of incipient god realm experts to enter the immortal realm. It's not definite, you know. It depends on the innate talents and foundation of that person. Well, many people died immediately after using the pellet and failed to break through. Pausing for a while, he observed around them and then talked in Desolate Territories language. I heard that lizard, the absolute beginning creature, was gone because of refining the immortal pellet. He left to find a level 7 life star with billions of lives in another territory outside to refine the immortal pellet. No one knows what he had experienced. He was gone. Dragon Lizard had to use the link in their blood and a lot of time to find his remains with around 10 immortal pellets. Dragon Lizard didn't know how or why Lizard died. It remained a riddle until now. Listening to Evelyn's, Audrey paled. Using billions of lives and a level 7 life star to refine a pellet. Lizard was absolutely crazy. To refine this immortal pellet, he had massacred so many lives just to create a new immortal realm expert. That's why the immortal pellets are priceless. Of course, the refining method is almost lost now, and not many people are crazy enough to do that. That's why the immortal pellets have attracted a lot of creatures to come here. It's because of its marvelous and miraculous effects. The Soul Clan is trying to persuade the Dragon Lizard clan because they want to know the refining method from Dragon Lizard. Unfortunately, Dragon Lizard said that he doesn't know it. The Soul Clan thinks that he just wants to conceal the secret though. How many pellets does Dragon Lizard have? Shiryen suddenly screamed, his eyes bright. I want to break through to the immortal realm fast. Otherwise, it will be a huge struggle to move forward in this vast sea of stars. I must have one of those immortal pellets. Chapter 1370, Forefather Dragon Lizard. Chapter 1370, Forefather Dragon Lizard, _ Somewhere inside Dragon Lizard Star, there was a spacious bubbling lava pond with a surging flaming fluid. It looked like a massive heart that burned until it became red. Countless rocks around the pond melted into liquid. Cracking and crunching sounds echoed from the lava pond as if there was a giant beast eating something deep under the pond. The asteroids moved through the cave channels and poured into the lava pond. Among them was an ordinary rock that moved with the flow. That asteroid concealed a divine weapon from the absolute beginning era. At this moment, that asteroid glided with the other asteroids and fell into the heart-like lava pond. Flaming fluid splashed everywhere. No one could see the massive three-legged cauldron inside the asteroid. When it fell into the lava, it suddenly shrank billions of times and became a small light. After an unknown time, the asteroids no longer came. 5 members of the Dragon Lizard clan at Second Sky of Immortal Realm emerged from a cave next to the pond. They stood respectfully by the lava pond, lowering their heads and calling for the Forefather. Not long afterward, the lava boiled when a figure emerged and flew out of the scorching pond. He didn't look very different from the other members of Dragon Lizard clan except for his skin, which was like a scarlet rock full of rock patterns. Anyway, it wasn't his real body. It was a clone made of his power and soul. His real body was still sinking in the lava pond in the deepest area of Dragon Lizard Star. Forefather, when the 5 experts of the Dragon Lizard clan saw him, they greeted him respectfully. Dragon Lizard had thick, strange red hair and a red beard. Each of his muscles was filled with exploding power. The energy in this clone wasn't a joke. He looked at the 5 experts and his voice was like thunder. You came here all together. Someone important came? Forefather, Commander Singh of the Soul Clan arrived, said a Dragon Lizard expert. Oh, Singh came early this time. Dragon Lizard's eyes were very dark. Pondering for a while, he said, my real body has just finished a meal. I still need time to digest. Singh came here this time for the old stuff, I suppose. They want us to unite with their Soul Clan. Forefather, it seems like uniting with the Soul Clan will do us no harm, said that expert. No harm? Dragon Lizard snorted. You think the Soul Clan is easy to live with? Once we unite with them, we will be tied all together. They will control us. We won't have our freedom anymore. Singh wants to unite with us because of the immortal pellet and the method to refine the pellet. Too bad. Forefather, you're at peak of Immortal Realm. You're just one step away from the Territory Ancestor level, but you haven't mastered the dark energy to become a real Territory Ancestor. If we don't give them our answer, will the Soul Clan trouble us? Said another expert. Dragon Lizard wore a heavy face. While staying dormant, I've studied the dark energy. I think I still need a little bit more, but this barrier isn't something out of reach. The day I break to the Territory Ancestor level, we won't need to mind the Soul Clan's attitude anymore. Pausing for a while, he said, we still have the 3 immortal pellets from our ancestors. I hope that we can use them to exchange for something related to the dark energy. You guys spread the news that we will prioritize any scripture, treasure, or technique related to learning the dark energy to exchange for the immortal pellet. The 5 clansmen of the Dragon Lizard clan nodded respectfully. They understood that it depended on the existence of the Territory Ancestor expert in the clan that a second-class clan could become a first-class clan. Only a tribe with a Territory Ancestor expert could have a solid foundation in the Sea of Stars. Singh came here a little early this time. It's not like him. Besides him, are there any representative from the super clans? Asked Dragon Lizard. Not as of this moment, the others shook their heads. Okay. After I digest, I can use my soul to cover the entire Dragon Lizard Star. I can see every commotion on this planet when that happens. But now, I need you guys to watch them closely. Release the news and tell them that we will prioritize the ones who know about the dark energy to exchange for the immortal pellets. Those with good information can come and meet me directly, Dragon Lizard ordered. The 5 Second Sky of Immortal Realm nodded respectfully and then left. After they had left, He frowned and looked suspiciously at the lava pond. He mumbled to himself, I did sense a feeble soul, but I couldn't find anything. Strange. Did I sense wrongly? As he had a profound realm, when the divine weapon from the absolute beginning era came to his stomach, he could sense it. However, the massive three-legged cauldron had shrunk like a small, and its aura blended with the other asteroids so he couldn't find it. Inside a valley in Dragon Lizard Star. This valley was very different from the area where Shurian's group stayed. The entire valley was renovated to be luxurious and beautiful with many palaces. A group of Soul Clan members wore loose black robes that revealed only their pale faces. All of them were levitating. Their feet didn't touch the ground. They lodged in the palace underground, but not in the caves. This entire valley hosted only members of the Soul Clan. There was no creature from any other clan here. The Dragon Lizard clan didn't arrange anybody else to lodge in this area and bother the Soul Clan. Apparently, as one of the 7 great races in this cosmos, they were treated much better than Shurian's group. Inside the Grand Palace, a sinister old man shrouded in a loose, black brocade robe was floating between many souls. Those souls had shapes of alien warriors and even beasts. There were thousands of them who gathered like a mountain full of souls. He hovered on the peak of the Soul Mountain and coldly looked at a warrior kneeling on the ground. What did the Dragon Lizard clan say? Commander, sir. They said that Dragon Lizard hadn't finished his meal yet. They asked you to wait for a short time. He will come to meet you personally, reported the warrior of the Soul Clan. Harumph. Sing's face darkened. Dragon Lizard wants to make more time until he reaches the territory ancestor level. Ridiculous. It's not easy to enter the territory ancestor level. If he could use his power to break through, he would have done so already. I think he will use the 3 Immortal Pellets to seek aid to break through to the territory ancestor level. Well, just a dream to him then. Although the Immortal Pellets are precious, they're nothing compared to the power of the dark energy. Commander, what should we do if he doesn't show a cooperative attitude this time? Asked the warrior of the Soul Clan. Sing wore a cold, malignant complexion. It won't be easy for him this time. Our seniors are no longer patient. If he doesn't want to follow us, of course, we will have something nice to deal with him. He waved his hand to dismiss the warrior. He squinted, all right, leave. I need to stay quiet for a while. The soul warrior left. He flashed and then disappeared like a dispersing soul. Sing contemplated for a while, his soul changing. A departed soul emerged from the mountain of souls underneath him. That soul was lanky and it was twisting and flickering as if it was about to be extinguished. As soon as that soul appeared, it opened the mouth to swallow the dim, departed souls around. The vague figure quickly condensed and became real like dark clouds. A flame that was like a slithering spirit snake flew out of Sing's mouth and sizzlingly burned that departed soul. The soul that had just become real, distorted in agony. It struggled inside the flame and screeched mournfully. It looks like the flame of karma was burning its core. The soul faded again. Ming Hong, do you want to talk now? Sing sneered. Where's the entrance to desolate territory? As long as you tell me the truth, I assure you that I will set your soul free and give you a good place to come. The soul became vague like a dispersing cloud. His misty face turned to Sing, his voice feeble. You shouldn't think about it anymore. Even if my soul seal vanishes, I will never tell you where the entrance to desolate territory is. If my power Upanishad wasn't so strange, you would have refined me for a long time and used your special soul technique to extract my memories. Well, unfortunately, you know that once I lose my memory, my soul will disperse. You will get nothing from me. Why do you need to do that, Ming Hong? Desolate, the absolute beginning creature, is the territory ancestor level of desolate territory, but its body is divided now. When our soul clan subdues Desolate, your destiny won't be controlled anymore. What good is it for you to hold on to that secret? Frowned Sing. Ming Hong gave a dejected smile. So you think I don't know your working principle? If I tell you the entrance to desolate territory, billions of living beings in our territory will become your soul energy. Will you leave anyone alive? No. Haha. I'm desperate now. If you want to destroy my soul, just do it. Anyway, you shouldn't dream about getting to know the gateway to desolate territory. Well, Even if you want to die, it will not be easy. Sing grinned. The flames suddenly became fiercer. Ming Hong's weak soul form was burning and becoming distorted. He shrieked and screeched in this extremely cruel torment. Ming Hong, wait and see. I will find the entrance to desolate territory. I will make you watch our soul clan refining desolate and destroy all creatures in desolate territory. I want you to see. No one can resist our clan. Sing laughed arrogantly, his imposing aura increasing. You better find it before Desolate wakes up and unites its body. Otherwise, when Desolate comes back, it will make your soul clan live in calamities. I also want to see who will seize the victory in the end. Even though he was screeching, Ming Hong still managed to retort. It seemed like he knew that Sing wouldn't eliminate him. Oh, so you think that it's easy for wounded absolute beginning creatures to fully recover? Mwahaha, don't worry, it won't. I will show you. Without your direction, our soul clan will still find desolate territory and refine desolate. Pausing for a while, Sing continued, if we can refine it, I can learn and control the dark energy. I can reach the territory ancestor level. I will become a new existence at the territory ancestor level in my clan. Ming Hong, wait and see. I will enter the territory ancestor level faster than anyone else. Snorted, he continued, Dragon Lizard is stubborn. He thinks it's easy to get into the territory ancestor level. Our clan has experts at the territory ancestor level, but I've been stuck for many years. He's just a daydreamer when he says he wanted to enter the territory ancestor level too. Chapter 1371. Trade for Items. Chapter 1371. Trade for Items, _. Many creatures from different clans were sitting neatly on the jade platform in the middle of the valley. In front of them were the special cultivating materials they wanted to sell or trade. Most of them were rare and precious, and they included jades and crystals, divine weapons, sets of armor, and more. All of them were fabricated exquisitely. Those cultivating materials were lustrous and colorful. The warriors wanted to use them to exchange for suitable cultivating materials. This was an open exchange area that the Dragon Lizard clan had prepared for the visitors to exchange items while waiting for the celebration. At this moment, Shiryen, Audrey, Evelyn's, and the other two were walking around the area. Their eyes were bright when they were watching the items. Heavenly Wood Stone, Undying Lotus Throne, Devouring Soul Silk. Oh wow, they are all priceless items. Audrey's eyes brightened as she said, in our place, those things are rare and special items in the market. Even Desolate couldn't produce them. I didn't expect that they could trade them freely here. Evelyn smiled and then explained, Desolate territory is just a remote area. People don't even know where the entrance to the territory is. This immensely vast universe has many territories. Only the real top warriors come to the sea domain of nihility. Thus, most of the warriors traveling around the sea domain of nihility are top warriors in their respective territories. Of course, the items they have aren't ordinary. Pausing for a while, he pulled a serious countenance and said, moreover, the sea domain of nihility was formed by so many broken territories after absolute beginning era. Many strange areas still have precious treasures from that era that are even more than what we're looking at here. If we get to the other areas, we can find more good items. Shiryen nodded. He knew that this area was just a corner of Dragon Lizard Star, the area for third-class clans to stay. The forces or clans like the Water Tribe would be accommodated in better areas, and the exchange zone there would have more rare and priceless items than this area. We mostly use items to exchange for items in this area. They rarely use divine crystals to buy or sell. In this vast universe, there are many divine crystal lodes. Thus, divine crystals aren't scarce. They need cultivating materials that suit them well. Pay attention and you will know what they want to exchange for their goods, said Evelyn's. The trading zone was like a complicated market with many sellers and buyers. The aliens walked around and shopped. When they found suitable materials, they stopped to talk to the sellers. If they got what the other wanted, their transaction was done smoothly. Listening to Evelyn's, Shiryen and Audrey looked around and found that most of the sellers spoke popular languages to write the items they wanted to exchange for. The alien who sold the heavenly wood rock wanted to exchange his item for materials suitable to lightning and electrical power Upanishad. That warrior had second sky of incipient god realm cultivation base. The energy fluctuating from him was clear lightning. Evidently, he cultivated lightning and electrical power Upanishad. After taking a walk around the area, Shiryen and Audrey saw many things, but didn't find anything suitable to them. Thus, they continued to walk and watch. You guys should walk around and see. We're going over there. See you at where we are staying later. Evelyn suggested that they should part. Shiryen and Audrey didn't oppose this. After that, the three experts of the Heavenly Eye clan headed to another area. Shiryen and Audrey walked shoulder by shoulder. Sometimes, they talked as if they were a couple. There were so many aliens here. Most of them had humanoid features with some modifications. Some had curved horns, some had fearsome tails and long ears, and some even had strange patterned skin. Although they came from different races with different languages, they were speaking the popular language. Thus, their transaction didn't encounter a language barrier. Audrey suddenly hissed and halted in front of an alien. Her eyes radiated strange light. That alien had wave-like blue patterns all over his body. He was a middle-aged man cultivating wind and thunder power Upanishad, as the others could hear faint noises of howling wind and rumbling thunder from his body. What had attracted Audrey was a pitch-black wine jug in front of him, which had clear soul energy fluctuations. With her special power Upanishad, Audrey sensed and she knew that the souls trapped inside weren't ordinary. Shiryen secretly sensed and he got startled. He said, 3 souls at third sky of incipient god realm. Their consciousness was erased, leaving only the pure soul energy. Not bad. He knew that Audrey could use her power Upanishad to absorb the strong souls to increase her realm and power. It was the exclusive power Upanishad of Imperial Dark Tribe. That was also the reason why Ming was the most suitable warrior to cultivate soul control power Upanishad. Soul control was the most magical technique in soul power Upanishad. I only trade them for things suitable to my power Upanishad. The middle-aged man's eyes opened a slit to observe Shiryen and Audrey. He sounded disappointed as he hissed impatiently, if you don't have it, don't shield the other's view. He was one of the several Immortal realm experts in this trading zone. Seeing Audrey and Shiryen at just incipient god realm, he guessed they didn't have anything nice to trade. Thus, he gave them an ugly face and asked them to move because they were standing and blocking the view of the warriors with treasures in wind class. Unfortunately, I don't have any item suitable for him. Audrey looked yearned. She whispered and then left. The 3 incipient god realm souls in that jug were really attractive to her. If she could merge them with her soul, she could break through to second sky of incipient god realm. The 3 souls at third sky of incipient god realm was an astounding amount of energy. They were an excellent tonic to her. Audrey's graceful body was about to move, but she found that Shiryen didn't move. She was surprised, so she murmured to him, "We don't need to waste our time here." The wave patterns on the middle-aged man's skin surged. He rolled his eyes impatiently at Shiryen. "Kid, what do you want? You want trouble?" Shiryen grinned and touched his glabella. Around 10 strange rocks fell into his palm. Those rocks had so many round holes on the surface that emitted howling winds and rumbling thunder. The Wind Thunder Stone was a magical stone that the Chen family in Thunder Firmament Star area used to survive. It had the power of thunder and wind. When the remains of the immemorial Thunder Dragon was dormant, his energy had connected to the star area barrier. After thousands of years, it began to produce this kind of stone. As Lady cultivated lightning power Upanishad and had to deal with gusts of strong wind in that area, his remains had created the Wind Thunder Stone miraculously and accidentally. The Wind Thunder Stone was the most suitable cultivating material to the warriors with wind, thunder, and lightning power Upanishad. It could help them increase their power and boost them in understanding the meaning and abilities of their power Upanishad. That middle-aged man wanted to exchange for treasures in Wind class or Lightning class, but he had never expected to see the natural stone that had both attributes. When the Wind Thunder Stone emerged, his impatient face turned bewildered, and then he smiled. Hey brother, we can use these stones to exchange. Give me 10 stones, and you can take this wine jug to give to your woman. They were 3 incipient god realm experts who had chased after me that year. Too bad for them, I'd reached the immortal realm. I killed them and erased their consciousness. Now, they're just the pure energy. He smiled with his narrow eyes as he explained. When Audrey saw Shiryen taking out the Wind Thunder Stone, her cold, indifferent face became bright and happy. She blushed when the man misunderstood that she was Shiryen's woman. She looked extremely beautiful and her neck was even red. The light in her eyes danced as she muttered something. She wasn't thick-skinned, so she felt that it was really awkward now. However, she didn't know what to do. My woman, Shiryen felt funny as he mumbled to himself. Then, he agreed with him and said, "Okay then, I'll take this jug. You keep the Wind Thunder Stone." Laughing, he put the Wind Thunder Stones down and his other hand picked up the jug containing the soul of the 3 incipient god realm experts. He then threw one arm around Audrey's slim waist and walked away contentedly. "Bastard! Drop your hand." Audrey was blushing, her eyes lustrous. She glared at him. When she saw no one notice, she swayed away from his embrace. Taking a deep breath, she pretended to be calm. "I need this a lot. So, I owe you once. I will pay you back later." Then, she was so thrilled when she seized the jug from Shiryen. Her eyes were bright when she spoke calmly. "There are 3 souls at 3rd sky of incipient god realm in this bottle. I can break through 1 level. I could never imagine that someone would sell souls at such level. In our area, they were as strong as the chiefs of the god clan's 12 families. This sea domain of nihility is indeed a terrifying area." Shiryen laughed when she shoved him away. He swung his right arm that had just held her waist. His scorching eyes fell on her waist, teasing the cold and arrogant princess of Imperial Dark Tribe. "Oh, so you owe me, right?" "Yeah, how are you going to pay me back? You said that I'm the sort of guy that wouldn't be happy without women. I'm lustful. You and I are lonely here. We don't know anyone. Do you see what I'm saying? Should we become a little closer?" Audrey was bewildered. "So you're really that despicable?" "I thought you know that already." Shiryen sounded surprised. You don't feel guilty to your women when you do that?" "I know that there are many women faithful to you on Grace Mainland. We haven't left for a long time. You want to betray them? Can you get over that challenge in your heart?" said Audrey sternly. Shiryen rose his brows. A dark gleam appeared in his eyes. "Staying quiet for a long time," he said. "No one knows what will happen later. I don't know if we can return to desolate territory or not. Perhaps they won't have a chance to see me again. I don't know if we can survive in this area either. If I can have a nice day and live happily for one day, I will try to continue that way. That's all." The more he understood the sea domain of nihility, the more he recognized how small and powerless he was. The 7 great races had existences at territory ancestor level who could be compared to Desolate or Hui. There wasn't only one expert like that. He was just a weak warrior at incipient god realm. It was already a problem if he could survive until he found the way home. The complicated situation here had covered his soul and heart. He didn't dare to think about the future. He just considered how to survive the moment. Teasing Audrey was a way to relax his tense nerves and vent out his stress. The more he knew about stuff and people here, the more pressure he felt. Thus, he had an extreme desire to get the Immortal Pellet. He had made up his mind. He would pay any price to get the Immortal Pellets in Dragon Lizard's hand. He had to get one to reach Immortal Realm quickly. Chapter 1372, Fantasy Boundary Stone. Chapter 1372, Fantasy Boundary Stone, _ The sea domain of nihility had so many alien races, and there were as many experts of those races as stars in the sky. The competition between them was always harsh. If Shiryen didn't have the power to protect himself before he found the way home, it was going to be very tough for him to survive. He would be killed eventually. The Immortal Realm was an important advantage to increase his chance of survival. Thus, he needed the Immortal Pellet in Dragon Lizard's hand. He wanted to break through as soon as possible. Listening to him, Audrey looked pensive. She didn't continue the topic afterward. Putting the wine jug away, Audrey made up her mind. She would use the 3 souls in the jug to increase her realm. Yen was distressed under the heavy pressure even though he had 3rd sky of incipient god realm. She had just 1st sky of incipient god realm. She needed to increase her power. Otherwise, she would need Yen to protect her all the time. She didn't want to be a burden. As the princess of Imperial Dark Tribe, she was the daughter of heaven in desolate territory. It was humiliating when she let a man protect her. I also want to see if I can find any treasure suitable for me. We can be assured if we get stronger. We're not sure about anything. We must be careful. Yen frowned and then relaxed his mind. He sent his soul consciousness to see if he could find any materials that could help him. His soul consciousness rippled like waves, slowly expanding from him unceasingly. He looked disappointed as his soul consciousness had almost finished searching the trading area without a positive result. While he was about to give up, his soul was touched. A flow of magnificent space energy came to him from a remote corner of the jade platform. His eyes brightened. He didn't hesitate and walked directly toward that area. Audrey's eyes fixed on him. Seeing him walk away as if he got something, she hurried to follow closely behind him. Her elegant face had some strange gleam. Looking at Yen's back, she sighed inwardly. No one knew what she was thinking in her mind at this moment. Shortly after, the two stopped by a corner of the jade platform in front of an ugly alien. She was an old woman with a warty face, skin like a toad. She had pointy ears and her hair grew lushly like wild weed. Her hair had covered her body entirely and made her look like she was hiding in a haystack. In front of her was a glass container that held 9 crystal jades. The jades didn't glow, and because the container had sealed them, they didn't emit any special energy fluctuation. The old woman didn't look up as if she was snoozing. After Yen and Audrey had arrived, she didn't have any reaction. Audrey was gingerly. As soon as she came, she recognized a wisp of slithering soul consciousness like the tongue of a venomous snake creeping around her. She understood that, even though the old woman didn't open her eyes, she was still watching them. Releasing her soul to sense, she became more gingerly. She shot Yen a discreet look. Unexpectedly, the old woman was one of the warriors at 1st sky of Immortal realm. The energy fluctuating from her body was really magical. It seemed like she could create illusions. Audrey found layers of illusions in her soul. She wanted to sink in them. Fantasy Boundary Stone. What kind of magical stone is it? Yen asked all of a sudden. While sensing, he had found the strange space energy fluctuation. Thus, he followed it and came here. When he approached the old woman, he found a strange feeling that the 7 stones seemed to be able to create the 7 different worlds. Yen was really curious. The old woman finally opened her eyes and spoke indifferently. The Fantasy Boundary Stone is useful to the ones cultivating space power Upanishad only. When they use space energy to activate it, the stone can become a small space. It's like a hot air balloon. The more energy you pour in it, the bigger it can be. A small stone can become a whole tiny world? Is it really that magical? Yen was very surprised. The old woman snorted and pouted her lips. No, not really. The small world that the Fantasy Boundary Stone creates can't last forever. It can remain for a while. Otherwise, why would it be called fantasy? This Fantasy Boundary Stone can be used as a weapon to warriors cultivating space power Upanishad. They can use it to confine their enemies. Once they capture the enemies in that world, they can detonate it. It will kill or wound the enemies badly. Yen's eyes brightened. He nodded and smiled. To what level of an enemy can it kill? It depends on the user, the old woman thought, and then explained. As you have only 3rd sky of incipient god realm, the world created by your god power may kill a warrior at the same realm or hurt a warrior at a slightly higher realm when you detonate it. You can even confine the Immortal realm expert for a short time. Of course, what matters here is whether you can drag your enemy into that world or not. The Fantasy Boundary Stone had never existed in desolate territory. Yen had never heard about this stone before. However, listening to her explanation, Yen was sure this item was suitable for him. After refining it, it could become a small world that he could use to imprison enemies, burst them, or hurt them. It wasn't an ordinary item, indeed. She didn't say what she wanted to exchange for these stones, Audrey reminded Shiryen. Shiryen noticed that there wasn't a sign of the things that the old woman wanted to trade. He was a little surprised. While he was about to ask about that, the old woman spoke up. What I need is related to this fantasy boundary stone. I need a warrior cultivating space power Upanishad to help me. The ones interested in the fantasy boundary stone are the ones cultivating space power Upanishad. Thus, I don't need to make any note. Releasing a flow of energy, Shiryen chuckled. You see, I'm cultivating space power Upanishad. What do you need help with? The old woman lifted up her head to study Shiryen for a while and then shook her head. Your realm isn't profound enough. If your teacher is here, perhaps he can help me. I can give you those fantasy boundary stones. Anyway, you don't have the capability to help me with what I want to do. What is that? Can you tell me a little bit? Shiryen was surprised. The old woman hesitated for a while. Something flashed in her sleeve and a small lock shimmering in silver light appeared. This silver lock was as big as a hand, but it had so many carvings of fine spatial patterns. There were at least hundreds of small spatial formations carved on this lock. This space lock is sealed. The space inside the lock has something important to me. I don't have the key. I need a warrior with space power Upanishad to unlock it layer by layer. To unlock a spatial lock, you have to do it in one try. At your realm and cultivation base, you don't have enough power to do so. She shook her head and didn't try to be polite when she said that Shiryen didn't have sufficient power. If your teacher or your friend is at the Immortal realm, they can try. Anyway, I have to say that you can only get the fantasy boundary stones after you unlock it. If you fail, you'll get nothing. The spatial lock confined a small space. If it was forced to open or opened with the wrong methods, the lock would explode and smash that space. If the operator was rash, he could have to pay with his life. Only experts cultivating space power Upanishad could use the soul consciousness with space power and God power to solve the formations on the lock one by one. During this process, he could not pause. He had to finish them in one try. Otherwise, the magical space formations would change and create new complicated formations. The old woman explained everything to Shiryen in detail because he cultivated space power Upanishad. She hoped that his teacher or his friend had sufficient power and they could bring her a little surprise. To solve the spatial lock, does it require a profound understanding of the power Upanishad and condensed God power? Shiryen pondered and then asked. Yes, both of them. However, the pure and condensed God power is more important. Because if you have enough God power, you can last longer and you can have more time to think and solve it. Otherwise, even if you have a good grasp of knowledge, your insufficient energy will make you fail. The old woman understood the features of the lock well. Shiryen nodded and indicated that he understood. He rubbed his chin and pondered, can we move to another place to talk? The murky eyes of the old woman brightened. The energy fluctuating from her became strange. A strange but pleasant aroma emitted from her ugly body. Shiryen was stunned. The aroma was so delighted that it was like the fragrance of a charming, mature woman. It completely contrasted to her fearsome appearance. If you don't mind, we'll go to my place to discuss, she invited. Shiryen and Audrey exchanged looks. Shiryen nodded with a smile, okay. The old woman wiped her hand, and the container with the fantasy boundary stone disappeared. She stood up and walked out of the trading zone. As soon as she came to the area where they were allowed to fly, she flew up and headed to a place on the rock wall. Shiryen and Audrey followed her. Shortly after, she brought them to a remote cave. This place was a lot similar to their lodge. It was spacious but plain. As soon as the two of them got inside the cave, the old woman set up a barrier to cover her lodge. After she was done, she said seriously, Kid, do you have any teacher or precursor cultivating space power Upanishad? If he's here, please call them. As long as they can unlock the spatial lock for me, I will offer more than the 7 fantasy boundary stones. I'm sure I can delight him. What do you think about me? Shiryen smiled. She frowned and suddenly became outraged. I don't have the time or extra energy to waste my time with you. You can leave now. At your realm and cultivation base, you can't solve this spatial lock. Oh, you said that the god power is more important. Yen curled his lips. He wasn't angry. He just rose one finger and pointed at the old woman. Radiant light shot out of his finger. So many spacelets like torn ribbons emerged together with sharp space blades. When his finger pointed forward, they immediately thrusted toward the old woman. The space energy in them was so terrifying. The old woman's murky eyes radiated a dazzling starlight band. She sensed for a while and then hissed in surprise. That's some really refined energy. Endless aura too. Kid, your realm is normal, but your god power is really thick and condensed. It's not less than that of normal immortal realm experts. Yeah, I think you can try once. Chapter 1373, Unlock the Spatial Lock. Chapter 1373, Unlock the Spatial Lock, _. Inside the sealed cave, the old woman looked very thrilled. She walked to the cave entrance and contemplated. A powerful energy fluctuation rose, which combined a lot of different power Upanishads. Lightning, mist, wind, ice, and flame created many layers of barriers that covered the cave entrance like spider webs. Yen focused and found that 13 strange formations had reinforced the cave entrance. Those barriers were invisible, so only the soul consciousness could see them. The sharp auras came from those barriers. Yen had no doubt that even if Evelyn's, Adam's, and Misha came here together, those barriers would be enough to kill them at their spots. No, it's not true. Yen discolored. He looked frightened as he said, absolutely. You don't have only first sky of immortal realm. The energy hiding in those barriers was extremely terrifying. Let alone first sky of immortal realm experts, even second sky of immortal realm experts didn't have a big chance to survive. The power this old woman had performed was beyond the realm she had exposed. Evidently, she had concealed her real cultivation base. Audrey's face was cold, but she was actually anxious. Discreetly, she urged the god power. If the situation didn't go right, she was going to take action shortly. Don't. Yan's soul quivered. He hurried to comfort her with a forced smile. If she wanted to kill you, it would take just a flick of her mind. Even if you use all of your power, you won't even touch her. The old woman laughed and gave Yen an appraising look. Kid, you have keen eyes. Don't worry. I mean no harm. As long as you can open this spatial lock, I will give you other gifts beside the 7 fantasy boundary stones. I'm sure they will delight you. Then, she turned to Audrey and frowned. Your soul power Upanishad is similar to the Soul Clan. Are you related to them somehow? While talking, her eyes changed dangerously. Soul Clan. Audrey shook her head. I'm a member of Imperial Dark Tribe. My power Upanishad is related to the soul, but I have nothing related to the Soul Clan. Good. She nodded and then snorted. I hate every single member of the Soul Clan. Then, a light glowed in her palm. 3 round pellets were conjured. They were crystal-like and sparkling with abundant energy that fluctuated. She handed them to Yen and said, These are the congealing divine pellets of the mysterious Sky Clan. There's as much god power in each of these as a third sky of incipient god realm expert's body. You can absorb the energy from the pellets rapidly to recover. You should use them to unlock the spatial lock. Whether you succeed or fail, they're yours. I won't blame you if you use them all. Yen looked shocked. They're good stuff, indeed. The pellets that could recover the god power instantly were rare. While fighting, when a person's god power was insufficient, just swallowing one piece would give that person full power again. It was greatly convenient, indeed. Absorbing and congealing energy from the divine crystal was a slow process, and it took a lot of time to recover the warrior's energy. It could never be compared to this sort of pellet. Who are you? Audrey was keenly looking at the old woman. The pellets that can give instant recover are priceless. Moreover, they are from the mysterious Sky Clan, one of the 7 great clans. You don't mind giving him 3 pellets just to break that lock. Your generosity startles me. Hearing her, Yen was startled. He knew that this old woman should hold a high position and her identity wasn't ordinary. At your realm and personal competencies, you should have gone to bigger and better trading zones. You could have found warriors with stronger space power Upanishad. Why would you choose this zone? Shiryen couldn't understand. You two juniors have a lot of questions, the old woman frowned, her face cold. Stop asking irrelevant questions. Take the congealing divine pellets. You should unlock that spatial lock for me now. This cave is sealed. No one can barge in. Don't worry. Just do it as best as you can. Then, she sat down cross-legged and closed her eyes. Apparently, she didn't want to continue the topic. Shiryen got a good sense and he shrugged. Understood. He turned to Audrey and asked her to protect him. He didn't know her real identity, but he was sure that the old woman took this lock very seriously. Thus, before it opened, she was going to try her best to help him. Shiryen got this clue from the 3 divine pellets she handed him. Taking a deep breath, he pulled himself together and looked at the spatial lock, one hand holding 3 congealing divine pellets. After a while, he grinned and swallowed one of the congealing divine pellet. A current of heat dispersed into countless flows and scattered to the veins in his entire body. The thick god power was triggered. Instantly, the energy in his entire body was brimming. He had a feeling that if he didn't vent it out, he would explode. So much energy. He couldn't help but shout, his voice thundering and shaking the cave. The old woman opened her eyes and looked at him. She snorted and then pouted her lips. Kid, you're very careful. You thought that I would use the poisonous pellets to deceive you and it would burst you when you used one of those pellets to refill the god power. Yeah, it seems like you didn't waste your years of cultivation. You know how to stay alert. As she said this, Shiryen taking a pellet before taking action showed his caution. When his power was full and he took the pellet, even if it hid some problem, he would still have the power to counter. Also, if the pellet made something go wrong and he couldn't do anything, that old woman was going to protect his life if the lock wasn't opened yet. While being in foreign lands, he had to always be cautious. It wasn't a bad thing to do, anyway. When he realized that there was no problem with the congealing divine pellet as it made his god power surge torrentially, he smiled and condensed his god power. Instantly, the peculiar energy fluctuation of space power came from his body and rippled like waves that filled the entire cave. After the pure energy from the congealing divine pellet and the power in his body had blended completely, his energy had rocketed to an amazing height. Audrey was very surprised. Now, she finally knew how strong Shiryen was. She sighed as she recognized the difference between them. Electrical beams flashed in the old woman's eyes. Her line of sight didn't switch from Shiryen. She nodded discreetly, her hope getting bigger. Shiryen's aura and energy surpassed ordinary first sky of Immortal realm experts. At this moment, he could be compared to many outstanding warriors at this realm. Although it was because of the congealing divine pellet, Shiryen's competence was really amazing as he could reach such a height. Good, very good. He's more excellent than some kids in my clan. Amazing. Where does this kid come from? He doesn't look like someone of the 7 great clans. Well, he's strange. Looking at Shiryen, she contemplated and became more surprised and skeptical. At this moment, Shiryen had to use his soul consciousness to cover the aura of the dark energy. He was using his normal power to get into the spatial lock. As soon as Shiryen got into the spatial lock, he opened his eyes to an immense sky. That sky had so many holes and each hole was filled with strange spatial formations. He needed to use his god power with space energy and his understanding of space power Upanishad to slowly solve them. After he could finish all the formations here, he could unlock the spatial lock. That's how he could open this locked world. His soul consciousness condensed the god power and moved like different rivers pouring into different holes in the sky. They moved around many spatial formations at the same time while Shiryen was using his attainment in space power Upanishad for many years to understand the features of those mysterious and complex formations. Many of those formations had mixed with the space nodes, and some even looked like a mess of yarn balls created by unnatural, scattered lines. He had to solve, pull, and fix the lines, little by little. It was like a bundle of fishing lines integrating and twisting with each other. He had to slowly take them out one by one. Hundreds of spatial formations were hundreds of complicated riddles. At the same time, they were connected to each other. If he wanted to solve them, he had to do it at the same time. Otherwise, they would resonate with each other and create more problems. While solving the formations, Shuryan's god power was being rapidly consumed. With the space power Upanishad as the source of knowledge, he sank into many spatial formations inside the lock. To do many tasks at the same time, it looked like Shuryan had created many clones that worked in different formations. Shuryan knew some of those formations, so it was easy to deal with them. Some other formations existed in Bello's memory, so he could solve them too. However, there were so many formations that he had never seen before. They were mysterious and complicated. While solving them, his understanding of space power Upanishad also widened. Once he solved a new formation, his understanding of space power Upanishad reached a new height. The process of breaking this spatial lock was also a test to his understanding of space power Upanishad. It was his new comprehension too. He had a premonition that this chance to open the spatial lock was an intensive lesson for him to study space power Upanishad. Those mysterious, unknown formations had opened a new, big door for him to immerse deeper in space power Upanishad. It took him to the world of power Upanishads. Now, his comprehension of space power Upanishad had reached a new height. Not only did his god power condense, but he also has the competence to challenge higher realm warriors. His capacity to understand the power isn't ordinary, though. This boy keeps surprising me more and more. The old woman who looked harsh and ugly suddenly opened her eyes to study Shuryan. She was very astounded. Only the outstanding warriors from the 7 great clans can do that. He's not one of them, obviously. Why is he so strange? Strange. It's really strange. While thinking, she was moved. She looked at Audrey and pried. Which territory did you guys come from? Desolate territory, answered Audrey. Desolate territory. The old woman screamed in panic. It was the first time she changed her visage. Her senile body was shaken hard. Chapter 1374. Chapter 1374, The Life Soul Tree and the Upanishad Original Seal, _ Desolate territory is the territory created by Desolate, the absolute beginning creature. It was lost for so many years. Are you really from Desolate territory? The old woman was stern when she looked at Audrey. She sounded as if she was scared. Why are you here? Inside the cave, Shuryan held his breath and concentrated on condensing his god power. He gathered his spirit, chi, and soul into one beam and sent it to the spatial lock. He was using his magnificent will to break the marvelous spatial lock. We got lost. We came here accidentally. We don't know why we're here too. Also, we don't know the way home. Audrey answered. She didn't expect to see the strange reaction from the old woman. Pausing for a while, she turned to the old woman and asked with surprise. You look astounded when you hear about Desolate territory. My friends from the Heavenly Eye clan said that Desolate territory is isolated and remote. The language from that place is rare too. According to him, Desolate territory is very normal and weak compared to other territories. Why did you have a big reaction like that? She pouted and said with disdain. Heavenly Eye clan? This sort of bottom clan has no knowledge. Besides the experts of the 7 great clans, not many people know about Desolate territory. You don't know how you came here and you don't know how to go back? It's really. She took a deep breath, her face stern. For many years, the members of the 7 great clans have not given up searching for Desolate territory with power Upanishad Original Seal. The Soul Clan and the Devouring Clan are the most active in this operation. It's because only the 7 great clans knew how important Desolate territory is. Audrey was surprised. How important is it? She looked at Audrey, her eyes containing something deep. Desolate is one of the strongest absolute beginning creatures. In this vast universe, you can count the number of the absolute beginning creatures that still exist with your fingers. Most of them are dormant, but no one has the guts to provoke them. Desolate used to have a fierce reputation. The 7 great clans know that it's damaged severely and its body is divided now. They know that Desolate is in its weakest condition. Pausing for a while, she arranged her thoughts and spoke distantly. You know how important the wounded Desolate is to the territory ancestor-level experts? If they can refine Desolate, the power of the territory ancestor-level experts will increase massively. The expert at Third Sky of Immortal Realm could get the dark energy to reach the territory ancestor level once they refine Desolate successfully. I heard that Desolate used to be super powerful. It was the rarest supreme existence among the other absolute beginning creatures. It has at least 2 absolute beginning divine weapons. When they refine Desolate, they can take their divine weapons too. It's a great, irresistible enticement to any expert of the 7 great clans. 2 absolute beginning divine weapons? Audrey was stunned. One is called the Life Soul Tree and the other is the Upanishad Original Seal. They are magical objects evolved from divine weapons. The Life Soul Tree is very marvelous and unpredictable. It can derive new species from the tree with the deepest mystical abilities of the earth and heaven, which are the soul and life. The Upanishad Original Seal has countless power Upanishads in it. The one who confused that can comprehend the mysteries of so many power Upanishads. The Life Soul Tree is a giant ancient tree and the Upanishad Original Seal is like a sea with strange power Upanishads. As you're from a race living in Desolate territory, your race should be a new species that Desolate derived from the life structure of the Soul Clan and created using the Life Soul Tree and its supernatural power. Thus, your physique is similar to the Soul Clans. I think that the warriors in your Desolate territory have mastered powers Upanishads like lightning, wind, ice, flame, and more. Those power Upanishads come from the Upanishad Original Seal. The old woman squinted. She eyed Audrey for a while and then slowly explained. Audrey was a little astounded. Her bright eyes were filled with surprise as she was immersed in her thoughts. Audrey believed everything that the old woman told her. Lately, she had visited Desolate when it opened. In the center of the holy mountain in the middle of Desolate, she saw a massive tree rooted into the earth. It was a very spectacular ancient tree, which had produced the Genesis fruit. That ancient tree was like Desolate's veins with magical, mysterious, vital functions. At that time, beholding the ancient tree had given her an extreme impression. And today, she knew that it was called the Life Soul Tree and was a divine weapon from the Absolute Beginning era. The tree could create new races and Imperial Dark Tribe was created using the Soul Clan, one of the 7 great clans, as the model. She also knew about the Upanishad Original Seal. As she was the master of the Heaven Flames and she had fused with God-blessed mainland, she could enter the fountainhead of power Upanishads freely, which was another divine weapon that the old woman had mentioned, the Upanishad Original Seal. The fountainhead of power Upanishads stayed right on Desolate. It was the source of all the power Upanishads and their principles. As it had fused with Desolate Soul, it had brought her and billions of creatures in Desolate territory many power Upanishads to choose and learn. Desolate territory had many powers Upanishads, so the warriors there had more options. Today, through this old woman, it was the first time she learned more deep information about Desolate. Sing of the Soul Clan is a top warrior. He has refined a soul of an expert from Desolate territory to be his brutal soul. He tortured that soul to find the entrance to Desolate territory. Sing is at the peak of Immortal Realm. He has an exquisite cultivation base too. He has a good grasp of information about Desolate. If he can get into Desolate territory and refine Desolate to get 2 divine weapons, he can break through to the territory ancestor level and become one of the top existing experts of the Soul Clan. The old woman pouted her lips and snorted. Too bad for him, that brutal soul is strange. His soul seal merged with his memories. Once his memories are gone because of the soul extracting method, his soul will explode to death. Sing can't force that soul to give information about the location of Desolate territory's entrance without hurting it, but the territory ancestor level expert in his clan can. However, Sing doesn't want to share Desolate's marvel with anybody else, so he has concealed it. He wants to enjoy all things harvested from Desolate. What's the name of the soul that Sing has used to create his own brutal soul? Audrey asked hastily. Ming Hong something. He doesn't have a body anymore. He is just a soul form. While we fought against Sing, he had released brutal souls to attack us. Although Ming couldn't act freely, he still has his consciousness. He disclosed the secrets to us with the hope that we could save him. Unfortunately, the old woman sighed, her face dispirited when she looking at the spatial lock. It seemed like the lock was keeping something very important to her, which made her worried a lot. That Ming is a precursor of my tribe, said Audrey all of a sudden. The old woman was bewildered. Then, she smiled oddly. Oh well, you don't know the way home. Ming knows, but he won't open his mouth. Yeah, I have advice for you. No matter what, do not use Desolate Territories language to communicate anymore. Otherwise, when the Soul Clan finds you guys, this cute little couple will perish. Audrey's face reddened, but she didn't explain anything. Madam, if you fight against Singh, could you kill him? Kill him. The old woman shook her head bitterly. Because we lost, we have to hide. We're afraid of the Soul Clan. I don't know Dragon Lizard's opinion about this. However, I know that he has a good relationship with Singh. As we are in his Dragon Lizard star, we must be very careful. Audrey could confirm that this old woman wasn't an ordinary expert. She said that only members of the 7 great clans know about Desolate's marvel. She knew it too. Also, as she used to attack Singh, she was definitely a member of the 7 great clans. Because of her defeat and something else, she had to conceal her identity. While they were talking, Shiryen sat still. The energy from him had all been sent to the spatial lock. Now, the spatial lock emitted magnificent halos and illuminated the entire cave. The old woman cheerfully looked at the Upanishad original seal with great hope and mumbled, "Excellent, kid. Really powerful. It seems like the old man can escape this time." The old man? Your partner is confined inside the lock, asked Audrey. The old woman gave a forced smile and admitted, "We joined hands to attack Singh. To wound Singh, he was fatally injured. The spatial lock has a magical effect. If you stay inside the lock, your broken soul power won't scatter. The space inside the lock will reserve it. When he can stabilize his situation, he can gather his broken but not dispersed energy to recover quickly." She sighed and continued, "But when I used the lock to protect him, Singh attacked me. The key was smashed. My man is trapped inside the lock. I think he must have recovered already, but he can't break the confining space to get out. If the space inside the lock is broken, he will perish too. We can slowly open this lock from the outside, but I don't cultivate space power Upanishad, so..." Audrey understood it now. If her partner hadn't been locked, she wouldn't have taken risks to come to Dragon Lizard Star. Dragon Lizard and Singh had a good relationship, so Singh could be in Dragon Lizard Star to join the celebration. Thus, she had to disguise herself and go to the third-class zones by using the fantasy boundary stones to attract the warriors with space power Upanishad. She hoped that someone could unlock the spatial lock to let her partner out. It was the reason why she had to take Shiryen inside the cave and create more than 10 layers of barriers. She was also very generous to give Shiryen the congealing divine pellet to help him open the lock. Apparently, she wasn't an ordinary expert. Her realm was profound, and she was obviously rich as she had promised them a big payment. Crack! 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 Right at this moment, the spatial lock made cracking sounds and the fine space patterns on the lock's surface slowly exploded. Abruptly, the strong light beams bloomed. A magical space door slowly materialized. A tall figure walked out of the door. As soon as he emerged from the cave, he yelled, "Ya Yoon! What the heck are you playing? Why did it take you such a long time to release me?" "Oh, *T. That mother** curse Singh didn't kill me, but you almost choked me to death." He was a slender man with high spirits and a shining bald head. He was gorgeously dressed in brocade robes with many seal characters and ancient marks. After yelling, he looked at the old woman and screamed, "How come you've turned into this?" The old woman sighed. Her body shook and she turned into an elegant woman around 40 years old. She still looked graceful indeed. As the old man was yelling, she was a little embarrassed. Singh smashed the key of the spatial lock. I found a boy cultivating space power Upanishad to unlock it for you. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.